Good afternoon, everyone. May I request Pavan Tugal sir, Manika ma'am, and Namita ma'am to take their seats on the dais. Good afternoon and welcome to the Legal Tech Venture Day. I'm Saharsana Kapoor, your MC for today, and a student member with the Center for UN Studies here at JGU. Everywhere around the world, lawyers today face various challenges to their profession: globalization, artificial intelligence, mega technological change, new criminal methods. These challenges demand innovation. Accordingly, lawyers must develop new skills to succeed and harness innovation in their unconventional work and expertise that embodies changemaker lawyering. The Legal Tech Venture Day brings together the best examples of successful legal startups, guiding future lawyers to initiate, develop, and complete legal undertakings in their ever-evolving profession, helping them to provide significant advantages to the society. Legal Tech Venture Day is an event that brings together the actors of the entrepreneurial, startup, and legal tech ecosystem in India. This event aims at identifying and supporting startups that can have a positive impact on major challenges faced by the legal operators, whether private or public, as well as the legal systems, so as to improve their operations, thereby furthering the cause of justice. During the course of the evening, we shall witness the Legal Tech Startup Pitch Competition, wherein the selected startups shall pitch their startups to a panel of distinguished jurists, followed by a moderated panel discussion on innovating the legal profession. Please welcome Professor Manika Nair. Ma'am completed her BA LLB from the University of Kerala, following which she worked as a moot court trainer at Sri Narayan Guru College of Legal Studies, Kollam, while practicing law in the chambers of Advocate Mr. R. Ram Mohan. Ma'am then went on to pursue her LLM from the University of Cambridge, pursuant to which she practiced before the High Court of Kerala. Her research interests include constitutional law, environmental law, and policy. May I invite Ma'am to give the opening address.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone, respected dignitaries on the dais and off the dais, and thank you for a wonderful welcome. So Fridays in Jindal Global Law School are turning out to be innovative in discourse and discussion, because last Friday we had a phenomenal 3-panel, and this is even more fantastic. We're talking about innovation in law that we never we thought would happen, right? And we have wonderful guests, esteemed guests with us today. The first duty invested in me is to welcome our guests. Without any ado, let me invite Dr. Pavan Tugal to Jindal Global Law School. He requires no introduction, and people who follow his work know that he's an avid writer. He's written many books than most professors will ever write. So on that note, I would request him to give me tips as to how to be such a voracious reader and writer at the same time, sir. Welcome to Jindal Global Law School, sir. We have also our partner university, IE, with us, members of the IE University with us, and Ms. I'm really sorry, Ms. Nimita Tita, welcome to Jindal Global Law School. Now, technology and law, its intersections have been studied and is being studied as we speak. But we never thought of technology replacing law and the functionaries of law. This is something new. I mean, there are courts in all over the world which has moved on to e-facilities, paperless facilities, but we did not anticipate a legal system or judicial system wherein judges, the human element of a court would be changed or removed. So in the post-COVID, we saw the development of e-courts, which are run by artificial intelligence, especially in the Middle East. Countries of Abu Dhabi and Dubai has already started these processes. And the first AI court for digital economy gave its decision on a cryptocurrency litigation in 2022. So we are fast moving into a world where human element in decision making is being removed. And why is this human element being removed? The basic answer in all of these instances are that to bring about accuracy and to take away the possibility of an error in analyzing huge amounts of data. We're not talking about big data, but data that comes before a court of law in the form of evidence, both oral and material evidence. So the taking away of that error, the possibility of a human error, is cited as the first reason to bring about innovation in the judicial system. If that is the case, are we far behind? We're trying to catch up. In India, we have the SUVAS facility, wherein we translate judgments to regional languages. COVID saw us open up e-court facilities, and we are actively pursuing ways and means in which we can improve our technology part of judiciary and also legal mechanism. See, ChatGPT has also helped us understand that students also use ChatGPT to understand cases a lot better, but not always right. We've been experimenting with it ourselves too. But yes, AI is intervening and developing legal studies and legal knowledge as we are speaking. Recently, there's a study which says that 30% of our jobs are going away by 2030, including lawyers and including teachers. That is the way in which technology is developing. And last week, when Professor Louis Franceschi visited from the Commonwealth, he made a wonderful observation about how legal education and legal systems need to adapt to this change in culture, change in the technology culture. We are not traditionalist anymore, are we? We have learned that, we have understood that even in the absence of a physical classroom, we can learn. In the absence of a physical setup, we have given examinations. We have graduated 2 batches of students from Jindal Global Law School, and of course other schools in the university as well. So we've surpassed the area in which doubt was there. Can we do this? We have proved that we can. So now we are in a position where we understand hybrid is possible. If that is possible, how do we match up the traditional systems with the hybrid way of learning and developing law? Lawyers need to be in the forefront of this, very simply because lawyers are supposed to know something about everything. If not everything about everything, something about everything. And it's part of the trade to know something about everything. And it's a skill. I was a practicing lawyer, and I cannot stress enough the need to understand the development in this area. It's a niche area, but soon will become the area of relevance, innovation, and the intersection between human interaction with technology and its related rights, liabilities, etc. This is not something that we should fear, and most traditional teachers and also students fear technology law and corporate law. Unfortunately, it is the intersection point. The corporate law and technology law are intersecting, and innovation is there at its epicenter. And we should prepare ourselves to understand this development. We should equip ourselves to teach and learn this intersection and observe it and grow as it grows. So it's a great initiative on the part of our university in collaboration with IE University to have this idea implemented in Jindal Global Law School. And it is with great pleasure that I invite both our guests, and especially the dignitaries who are not on the dais. We have Mr. Krishna Srivastava, who's the co-founder of and director of Tesaro, Dr. Akhil Prasad, board member, general counsel, and company secretary of Boeing India, we have our panelists, Ms. Komal Gupta from Cyril Amarchand Mangaldas. We have Sakshar Dugal, Advocate, Delhi High Court, and Mr. Vinayak Mishra, General Counsel, Lightspeed, India Partners and Advisors. But I should also acknowledge the presence and participation of my own colleagues and professors, Professor Gudmundur Eriksson, Professor Abhinav Mehrotra. Welcome to this event too. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining us on a Friday evening and deciding to interact with our students and tech startups and inspiring them and giving them ideas. And dear students, thank you for joining us on this fine evening, Friday evening. Instead of going away, decided to join us for this discussion. Thank you. So thank you, everyone, and thank you for the team for having me over. I was stepping in for Professor Srijit. I'm not so sure whether I did the job well, but then I tried my level best. So thank you, everyone, and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you, ma'am. Please welcome Ma'am Namita Thitta. She is the Associate Managing Director, IE India Office. May I request ma'am to address the House.
Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure being here. I don't come from a law background, so I'm going to basically be talking to you a little bit about us as IE and our partnership here with Jindal. We started quite a few years back as a partner with Jindal for our exchange program for the law school, and of course now we've extended it probably going forward to the business program as well. To talk a bit about IE, we are a university which is based out of Spain, and the university hosts, under the umbrella of the university, is the law school. Today, IE celebrates 50 years of being in the education space, and it's been 50 years of experience of fostering entrepreneurship and technology innovation by the school. The Legal Tech Venture Day has been a three-area competition for us. We had it happen. We had the competition in Turin, Italy, New South Wales, Australia, and now India. And in this competition, the winners are going to be flown to Madrid and will be participating in our South Summit here. IE Law School offers a plethora of law programs which focuses on global law practices and is there to better the services that the legal practice has to offer globally. With the help of the entrepreneurial spirit, we are able to bring in that kind of innovative change that is required today for businesses and for general practices to sustain. As Professor Nair said, traditional practices are going through a tremendous change. And we, as an institution, has been part of that change right from the beginning. And it's not just today these changes are happening. It's a gradual process that we see. But it's much more quicker today, considering the way technology has moved itself. So without any further ado, I'm going to be end my talk here and welcome all of you. So thank you so much for being here on a Friday evening, and I look forward to hearing the startups here. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. It is my honor to welcome Dr. Pavan Duggal, our keynote speaker for today. As a practicing advocate in the Supreme Court of India, Dr. Duggal has made an immense impact with his pioneering work in cyber law, cyber security law, and mobile law. He's been acknowledged as one of the top 4 cyber lawyers worldwide and recognized as one of the top 10 cyber lawyers by World Domain Day. Sir is the founder and chairman of the International Commission on Cybersecurity Law and the president of cyberlaws.net. He's also been heading the Artificial Intelligence Law Hub and the Blockchain Law Epicenter, and is the founder cum honorary chancellor of Cyber Law University. His contributions to the field of cyber law are unparalleled, and he has conducted various roundtables, thematic workshops, and international conferences on cyber law, cybercrime and cybersecurity. Sir's experience and authority are widely recognized, and he has been empaneled as a consultant to UNCTAD and UNESCAP on cyber law and cybercrime. He is consulted as an expert with the Council of Europe on cybercrime and is included in the Board of Experts of the European Commission's e-commerce. Sir is the president of Cyber Law Asia, Asia's pioneering organization committed to passing dynamic cyber laws in the Asian continent, and a member of WIPO Arbitration and Mediation Center panel of neutrals. May I now invite Sir to address this august house.
You have to tighten your belts after you come for 2 hours on the road. Clearly, distinguished panelists on the dais, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. We are actually seeing world in change. And when I come in this particular conference, I have strange thoughts because I don't exactly know what I want to talk because there's so much happening on the horizon. But I thought, let me encapsulate some of my thoughts in a presentation for us to jointly see what I'm seeing on the horizon. Can somebody help me? Next slide. So today's landscape is a landscape of energy, of opportunity, and also of skepticism and challenges. Everybody today is enamored by one singular thing in life, which is GPT-4. Yesterday, my book GPT-4 and Law got launched on Amazon. Well, GPT-4 came on 14th of March 2023. Today we are the 20th of March of April 2023, less than 5 weeks away. And those 5 weeks have been enough for me to understand that you are going to open up a Pandora's box when you are now going to be using GPT-4. Why? Because GPT-4, along with all the sexiness and the glaze and the glamour, brings across unprecedented legal challenges that the world is still not yet ready as we go forward. Next slide. So I look at all around and everybody is buzzed with all enthusiasm. Why? Because ChatGPT is now being used on Khan Academy, it's being used on a variety of other platforms, and even for clients per se. Earlier it was ChatGPT, now it's GPT-4. So a lot of times when we still talk about GPT, we'll use the word ChatGPT, but effectively we are using and actually referring to GPT-4. Next slide. This company has already announced a new AI companion that's built with GPT-4. Try using Microsoft Bing, and you realize that some part of its operations are powered by GPT-4. You look at a lot of other obligations or other offerings like Brave on U.com, and you find some element of ChatGPT out there. Next slide. Mini GPT-4 is what's now capturing everybody's minds these days. Why? Because it's an open source AI language model algorithm that's going to perform complex vision language tasks like GPT. So it's going to be specifically for video, for images per se. Next slide. In this scenario, the news comes in that the GPT-4 has already passed the bar examination. So it's going to take you 5 years to write your bar examination after getting your law degree. And here is this program that is able to pass the US bar examination, not India's yet. But then if you can quickly realize, if you can pass a US bar examination, passing an Indian bar examination is going to be a cakewalk. So that's the world that we are currently living in. Next slide. In this space, when Justice Seema Kohli says that AI is a game changer, she's actually echoing a sentiment that's globally prevalent. You can close your eyes like the pigeon wants to close the eyes to the cat in the particular cage, but that's no good because the cat is in any case going to eat the pigeon. So we have two choices, either to keep our eyes open and try to find out ways and how we can deal with these new technologies, or just trying to be Paleolithic or just try to be on the way towards extinction. Next slide. 100 million users is what was achieved in 5 days by ChatGPT. Unprecedented, considering that Facebook took many years, considering that Instagram took many months. And now with GPT-4, the progress is even more higher. The only problem is it's paid exercise. So a lot of people still don't want to pay that $20 per month subscription that's happening. Next slide. But then if you can actually use a ChatGPT, which is for free today, for the job of an entry-level coder, then I think a lot of your work is done. And if you think that's the magical wand that's waiting for you, think again. It's not exactly magical. It's an invitation to disaster. Next slide. India is also not quiet. It's been working on its new own version of GPT, ChatGPT. It's called Lexi, which has now been evolved in the Indian context. I've not used it, but that's what the public domain says. Next slide. Everybody in the legal industry is bothered. Are these guys going to take my jobs away? Well, in the current level of evolution, I don't think so. But yes, if you are in the paralegal ecosystem, then you need to tighten your belts. Because as a paralegal, a lot of your work is going to be done by these guys, by these algorithms as we go forward. Next slide. So ChatGPT came on 30th of November 2022. It took me about 2.5 months to explore the nuances pertaining to ChatGPT. So this book of mine called ChatGPT and Legalities came out in mid-February 2023. And I thought, look, that's phenomenal because the first 10-15 days you were completely blown apart. You want to say something, sir? So, okay. 10-15 days you were blown apart, but then after some time you started realizing this intrinsic new technology has its own problems. And I think whatever the historical problems are there in ChatGPT have been actually sought to be regulated to some extent in GPT-4, but still the fundamental issues remain. Next slide. So what are these complex legalities that you as law students, you as people who are concerned with this technology need to know about? Next slide. Is the output from your ChatGPT or GPT-4 legal? Can I legally use it in a court of law? Jury is divided. A lot of people say yes. Well, a lot of people say no. So who's going to ultimately determine it? I think we'll have to wait and watch. I'm very clear. Today when I get an output from GPT-4 or a ChatGPT, it's nothing but computer output. It's an output that's generated by a computer. That being so, it becomes an electronic record under Section 2 of the Information Technology Act 2000. That being so, it's legal under Section 4 of the Information Technology Act 2000. There's no court that's going to bar you from using this. Of course, with the caveat that you will be responsible for relying upon it. So if ChatGPT output is taken by you, as was taken by a lawyer in South India recently, he was arguing a matter and he heard about this new tool and he went about and gave his proposition to ChatGPT. And ChatGPT came up with a number of authorities and citations. This man was great. He was in very paucity of time. He took a printout, as it is, put it on a Word document, and produced it to the court. And argued it. Without reading through the references or authorities or citations. It subsequently came to be known that none of these citations ever existed. The cases that were actually cited by ChatGPT were non-existent. ChatGPT was hallucinating. And if you as a lawyer are going to rely upon hallucinated data, then be prepared for the consequences because you will be responsible for what you are actually going to be relying upon or perpetuate on. So it's a great no-no for any lawyer or for any person or any professional to start using ChatGPT output or even GPT-4 output without any application in mind. Your credibility is going to be there. Have you realized Amazon has reported recently that their books segment has suddenly started booming. Everybody's writing books. Why? Because everybody started using ChatGPT for writing books. And when I look to the terms and conditions of OpenAI, it tells me, well, I'm giving you the output, what I'm giving you as an algorithm. You have the copyright. But it'll be nice if you can at least acknowledge the fact that this is being generated using ChatGPT. Most of these new age authors don't even want to do that. And now suddenly you find this guy in Stanford who's now created a new tool. The tool is going to help you find out from a text whether it's a human written text or it's a ChatGPT written text. Now that, if tomorrow it's going to be found out that your book was not written by you, but by a ChatGPT or some other this thing, see the kind of impact it's going to have on your reputation, your goodwill, your standing. It's going to be phenomenal, to say the least. So people are not even beginning to see what the problems are. Of course, hallucination in Indian, traditional Indian cultural ethos, we have this concept of gappe marna. For people who understand Hindi, you yap along. ChatGPT and GPT-4 yaps along. Yes, it throws you a torch in an area of darkness to give you a direction. But if you're going to put this light of the torch as your only radar or your only direction for your moving forward, think again. You could be in for big trouble. Further, issues pertaining to what happens if you rely upon a ChatGPT output or a GPT-4 output and it turns out to be false or inaccurate. Can you sue them? Look at OpenAI terms and conditions. And this is, sorry, you can't sue you because we've told you it's work in progress. We are telling you it's going to come up with inaccuracies. And despite that, you want to rely upon it, do it at your own will and at your own cost. So that they've actually made their disclaimers and their terms and conditions relatively pretty solid because they want to protect themselves. But that does not mean that they cannot be sued. India is a litigious society, and it's only a question of time before they're going to be sued. Whether it's somebody who's suing them for public interest litigation or privacy interest or publicity interest litigation, I don't know. But nonetheless, I see that horizon coming up. Do I have privacy when I use GPT-4 or ChatGPT? I'm not so sure. Because I read the privacy policy and OpenAI tells me whatever I'm going to share is going to be used by them on servers that are located in the United States of America and will be used for the purposes of further bettering the services of the algorithm. So here's the problem. If you are a celebrity and you type who's you about you, they already have done enough homework on you, so they give you a complete paragraph about you. Even if you're not a celebrity and you're just about okay, and you write something about you, the chances are if something about you is available in the public domain up to 2021 end, ChatGPT or GPT-4 is going to replicate that and present it to you. But you try asking about people who have either come into limelight after 2021 or events that have happened post, you find ChatGPT completely out of sync. Why? Because it's never been trained on models beyond that. Further, in the privacy policy of OpenAI, it's very clear. They're clearly telling you, sir, please be careful. Don't share with us your confidential notes, your confidential information, personal information, because we are going to use it. Now, once they are so apparently accurate on the face of it, and you still end up doing it, there's a problem. In India, do you realize there's one revolution going on? I've given it a name. I call it the Great Indian Vomiting Revolution. Indians are vomiting data about their personal, professional, social lives on the internet without even thinking about the ramifications for the same. So, a lot of Indians have started writing to ChatGPT about their former girlfriends, about their former boyfriends, to find out what they are doing, what's being talked about them. And lo and behold, all that is ultimately going out there. And tomorrow it comes back and haunt you. Don't blame anyone. So there are huge issues coming up. Of course, on data protection, huge issues. OpenAI says, I'm a California company. I'm governed by California law. Yes. But I'll also go ahead and comply with the GDPR. But what happens in locations when you're not in those jurisdictions where there's a data protection law or a GDPR? For example, India. Well, then it's your local law that's going to be applicable. Good thing about ChatGPT 4 is that it's actually, next slide, is the fact that you are now going to be seeing a lot of easy handling of tasks that would have normally taken a lot of time. And consequently, there is great advancement for lawyers. There's also great propensity to deal up and give up your paralegal support. But then handle that with care. Can somebody help me? Yeah, okay. Can I have that? So your speed and accuracy are going to be fantastically increased by these new offerings. But are they going to be accurate? I'm not so sure. OpenAI has said both at the time of ChatGPT and GPT-4 that, sir, we are work in progress. While we have endeavored it to be accurate, it's not accurate. So please rely it at your own will, at your own costs. So if you're going to rely upon asking a judgment, give me the latest judgment on right to, well, yesterday I was talking at a session of UN ad hoc committee in Vienna, and we had a very interesting question. Can we have a right to dream in the metaverse as part of my right to life? That was the question. My right to dream is my human right. Whether I am wherever, I have a right to dream, but I have to. But do I have a right to dream on the metaverse? And can I recognize it as a human right? There's a very gray zone. Because on metaverse, you don't dream. You ultimately give, execution of your dream. You actually implement your dream in the form of a digital avatar or whatever. So clearly, there are these fundamental questions that are coming up, and accuracy is going to be a great kind of a casualty. So as lawyers, legal professionals, you'll have to be very careful as we go forward. Don't think it's infallible. Yes, it's the next biggest thing that you know as of now, but does not necessarily mean that it's the best thing that humanity will ever know. So if you're a lawyer, and I've now seen lawyers going to ChatGPT and saying, my client company ABC by name is having this problem. Could you advise? Prompt comes the answer. Yes, I'm an AI language algorithm. I'm not a lawyer. But having said that, you can potentially do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, if you are not going to apply your mind on that and going to rely upon that, you're going to potentially be playing with fire. And if you're starting feeding those names of your clients on these services, they also are getting recorded. So the client comes to you in confidence and he says, hey, I have this problem. He's expecting that this problem is not going to be shared with anyone. But you share that with GPT-4 or ChatGPT, you see the kind of ramifications it has on client confidentiality. Also, the propensity of ChatGPT and GPT-4 to produce documents is phenomenal, but whether they'll be legally accurate is something that you'll have to test as we go forward. Actually, we now in the last 10 years, but particularly in the last 5 years, have seen a great watershed moment as far as the evolution of technologies is concerned. Internet of Things is something that the legal guys have to be prepared of. You'll say, I'm a lawyer, I'm a law student, what have I got to do with the IoT? I'll tell you an example. About 80 kilometers from your university is a very posh area in the NCR region. And this particular area has got huge creme de la creme housing structure. So there's a couple, tech couple, married 4 years. They have this propensity to keep on fighting. Every day they come and they fight. So they come from a party one night and they fight so much so that they are tired and go off to sleep. And about 4:30 in the morning, the wife wakes up. She goes to the kitchen. She's seething with anger for her husband. She takes the kitchen knife, comes back, and cuts the private part of her husband. And while she's doing that, she's talking like a mad woman. You did this to me, you did this to me, and that's the reason I'm giving you this punishment. Well, the police gets called, the case gets registered, and then subsequently it gets discovered that this couple has got an IoT device in their bedroom. And this IoT device has recorded everything. The law enforcement agencies have got the recording of everything that this device could potentially hear. And now that's going to be used as electronic evidence. So now you have suddenly a new kind of evidence that's coming up. So the Alexas and the Echos of the world look fantastic when I see on television play an Asha Bhosle song or give me a weather. But start thinking about if the kind of collation of evidence that's happening and the minefield that's creating for lawyers and legal professionals is something that we have to wait and watch. I think the pandemic must be thanked. Thanked in a positive sense because it has actually changed our life. Yes, we've lost many people, but the quality of life post-pandemic is now a different ballgame altogether. And therefore, I think there are these new applications that are completely changing our mindsets, our way of how we are thinking and using technology, and we need to be careful as we go forward. Everything is getting automated. E-signatures, automation of contracts, everything about legal tech is fantastic. They've now developed a new solution in the US. That solution is only for lawyers and law firms. What does that solution say? Fantastic. You have this matter coming up before XYZ judge tomorrow in the court. You give them the facts of the matter and say it's coming up before this judge. Please advise. So this program has read the entire judgment of XYZ judge from the beginning of his career till date, has analyzed those judgments, and has now come back to you with a response that about 97% of the time, this judge is going to do this. He's going to rule in your favor or rule against you. And they have actually been found to be about 98% accurate. So that's now the new phase of litigation, of legal advice that's coming up. And therefore, we will have to be using these kinds of stuff. The present Chief Justice, Honorable Mr. Justice Chandrachud, has been leading the technological advancement as far as the Indian judicial ecosystem is concerned. And thanks to him now, this hybrid option of hearings is now a ground reality. A lot of courts were in a mindset to close this hybrid or virtual hearings, but now it's de facto available across. But I think when I'm going to start using artificial intelligence more in judiciary, in the legal sector, I see a lot of advantages. I see the fact that you'll be able to club up matters, you'll be able to analyze things. But I also see the downside of it. It's like a black box. I have no idea of what's inside the black box. And well, a lot of things that the AI can do are well documented, well written. I'll not reproduce it. But as lawyers, I would equate these AI language algorithms to balls of fire. Touch this ball of fire with caution. At least put a firefighting suit on, because you don't exactly know what's happening. Why? Because bias is intrinsically, inherently built in these systems. Most of these systems have been tested on data that's of the Western world. So consequently, there's a bias against the brown color or the non-white color skin. And consequently, that's getting displayed as we go forward in the regard. So I think the bias is going to be a huge problem when I'm going to be using AI in judiciary is going to be concerned. A lot of people think AI is different, cybersecurity is different, and let me not think both of them. I think there's a huge combination and a huge gray zone of a together area, and they'll have to be seen in conjunction with each other per se. Nobody's talking about cybersecurity of AI. Today, it is potentially going to be a child's play for a child to go and hack into a ChatGPT or a GPT-4. Already ChatGPT has been used for creating a new malware. That malware is non-existent in the human civilization. And that malware is so efficient, it's incapable of current detection by current anti-malware products. So we are now actually looking at a black box. Recently, it got reported that a company, and I will not name the company, was doing experiments on 2 AI algorithms on 2 separate systems which are unconnected to each other and unconnected to the internet. And after some time, they found that the AI algorithms began communicating with each other in a language that humans could not understand. Panic set in and they had to close that experiment. But that's where the world is going. One survey tells me 2062. That's the time when human intelligence is going to be superseded by artificial intelligence. I disagree. The tipping point is going to come much earlier. Whether it's 2035, whether it's 2037 or 2040, it's coming much earlier. So as legal professionals, we will have to be increasingly getting prepared on how things we go forward in terms of even potentially protecting AI against sophisticated cyber attacks. Automating tasks, fine, but please understand cyber criminals are also using the same. I was on the darknet the other day and I was zapped to go to a darknet website which was offering this specialized service of cybercrime as a service powered by GPT-4. So, first and foremost, it's great. I don't need to prepare a pizza. I get somebody else to prepare a pizza. So, I want a cybercrime to be done. I don't do it myself, I order it. Wonderful. The guys say, I will take your order, but I will not implement it. I'll let AI do the implementation. And I'll be doing the AI from the Tor network so that nobody can either identify where is the AI ultimately located, who's behind it, who's the real actor. So suddenly we are entering into a gray zone of a dark, deep jungle where we don't exactly know how we're going to come up and come forward going forward. So vulnerabilities of AI are massive. And when we talk of legal tech, I think we have to be mindful of these vulnerabilities because cyber criminals are going to go ahead and potentially use these vulnerabilities as we go forward. Robos is the next big time, yes, but when you have tasted AI, then your expectation is I want my robo with the GPT-4 latest so that I don't even have to move my hand. Good, but see the ramifications that are going to exist. How are we going to be in control? Recently, there's an institution called Future of Life Institute that's actually issued an open letter. That's been signed by various people. I'm also signatory. It's an open letter to all giant AI companies asking them to pause all giant AI experiments and development for a period of 6 months in order to enable the world to have a review, in order to enable for legal frameworks to be put in place. Because right now, ChatGPT and then GPT-4 has only triggered an arms race. There's Google that's coming up with Bard. There's Amazon which is coming up with something else. There's somebody else who's coming up on something else. So in this arms race, things are not stopping. And ultimately, human interest and its preservation will be an important issue as we go forward. Humans rise first, but do these AI or these algorithms recognize human values? Are they ethical? Do they recognize and analyze what's going to be ethical? So I expect this algorithm to be ethical, but then how do I ensure it's going to be ethical? So holistic approach and collaboration will have to be the mantra, and that's why a lot of organizations across the world are now coming up with the new models of ethical guidelines that our AI needs to be following. At Artificial Intelligence Law Hub, we are also now collating what's happening there in terms of evolving legal jurisprudence on AI. Further, use of AI for cybercrime is something that we haven't even begun thinking about. Cybercrime has suddenly got a shot in the arm thanks to these new technologies. And it's the combination of these new technologies, artificial intelligence, blockchain and IoT, that's now presenting unprecedented opportunities for cybercrime as we go forward. So this arms race is going to continue happening. We have a couple of startups. We'll be looking at what they're offering today as we go forward. But then this is not alone. You have now blockchain evolving as a mature technology. But the misuse of blockchain is phenomenally going forward as we go on. Crypto assets, yes, we've seen a crypto winter now. A lot of money valuations have come down. But that does not mean crypto is going away. And very quickly, the legalities for cryptos will have to be specifically coming forward and discussed. India, for example, hasn't yet made up its mind. We don't even know whether we want to legalize crypto assets or not. But then we haven't even done work on any of these emerging technologies as well, which we need to do. Because Indians are not waiting for law to come up. Indians are saying, I am experimenting with law, with technology. Whether you come up with law or framework, I'm not bothered. You come up and I'll have a look at it at that point of time. Well, I was traveling last night on a flight back to Delhi, and they announced about this, almost all airlines are announcing about this Digi Yatra. It's fantastic, right? You just walk in, your face becomes your passport, and you go across. From the time you enter your airport till such time you enter the flight, it's 5 minutes, 4 minutes. Wonderful. Has anybody realized where's the data going? Who's handling your data? Who's having access to the data? Nobody. Everybody is thinking everything's 100% absolutely accurate. But I think in the absence of data protection laws, we have a lot of work to do in this particular regard. Metaverse is something that got up with a lot of enthusiasm. Right now, some meltdown. but nonetheless, metaverse is increasingly going forward. I think I've been told time to be leaving out. So I'm going to just pause wherever I am to say, well, metaverse has also begun to start seeing cyber crimes. One of our clients had a female avatar on the metaverse, and that female avatar on the metaverse got digitally raped on the metaverse by a male avatar. And now the client wants us to take action. But the law does not recognize the concept of a digital rape. And therefore you have a problem. So I think these are just some of the things that I see on the horizon on what is going to be evolving. And now all of us are only connecting with our devices on the network. It's the edge computing, that's the name of the game today. But this edge computing is thoroughly inadequate in terms of its security. So don't blame the state the next time your phone gets hacked or you lose your money. You'll have to quickly start realizing that as lawyers, you'll have to be responsible for not just your own data, but also the data of your respective clients and organizations. Ultimately, they say with power comes responsibility, and with greater power comes greater responsibility. These technologies are empowering us in a manner that has never been seen before. At the time when Neil Armstrong went to moon, the total capacity or the processing capacity of their computers was less than this iPhone that I have in my hands today. So we are very empowered. We need to thank everyone, but we need to be careful of the pitfalls. We need to be alive that technology is about 50 steps ahead of law, and law is going to take quite some time to catch up. So while it catches up, please protect your backsides. Please ensure that you do not become unnecessary victims of cyber crimes or unauthorized accesses on the network or technologies. At the end of the day, these technologies are going to be like the Rampuri knife. Use it to cut vegetables or use it for committing murder. The choice is yours. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, sir, for such an informative session. We now move on to the most awaited event of the evening, the Legal Tech Startup Pitch Competition. Please welcome the distinguished jurists for this event. Dr. Akhil Prasad, Sir holds an LLB, LLM, and LLD from Meerut University, India. He has also done his LLM from Northwestern University, USA, and is a non-practicing solicitor of England and Wales. Sir also took the leadership training under the program Leaders Shaping Our Future conducted by Boeing Leadership Center. He has over 28 years of experience as an in-house counsel in India and has worked with legal teams spread across different countries. Sir has been with the legal teams of Modi Court Group till 2000, following which he was the Assistant General Manager Legal of Electrolux Calculator till 2002. He also worked as a senior attorney and company secretary of General Motors India till 2005 and was the Director India Legal Affairs and Company Secretary of the Walt Disney Company India till 2007. From 2007 to 2013, Sir held office as Head of Legal and Company Secretary with Fidelity Worldwide Investment. Dr. Akhil Prasad is currently the Country Counsel India and Company Secretary for Boeing India Private Limited. He joined Boeing India in September 2013 and is primarily responsible for the legal advice and counsel to other Boeing subsidiaries and JV in India. Sir, it is a privilege to have you here today with us. I also take this opportunity to welcome Professor Arnab Bose. Dr. Arnab Bose has a Master's in Economics from JNU and an MBA in Finance from the University of Amsterdam and is a sustainability professional. Sir was the Assistant Vice President Responsible Banking at Yes Bank, an Associate Fellow in the Green Growth Division of the Energy and Resources Institute, TERI, in New Delhi, and has worked in various consultancy projects on resilience, climate finance, renewable energies, and electric mobility. Presently, Sir is an assistant professor here at Jindal Global Law School and a fellow at Jindal Institute of Behavioral Sciences with a doctoral thesis on smart urbanization. Sir, it is an honor to have you here today. Please welcome Dr. Krishna Deo Singh Chauhan. Sir completed his undergraduate degree in law from National Law Institute University, Bhopal, and his postgraduate degree from National University of Singapore. He specializes in areas of intellectual property and technology law. His research interests are focused on evolution of legal theory in the light of the latest advancements in technology, especially artificial intelligence and its impacts on law, society, and human psychology. Sir, it is a privilege to have you here with us today. Please welcome Mr. Krishan Srivastav. Sir studied engineering and is an information security and data privacy consultant by profession, with a critical experience in the risk consulting industry. He started his risk consulting career with KPMG India and has been involved with global clients in BFSI, IT services, and e-commerce industry. Currently, he is a co-founder and head of the cybersecurity at Tesaro. Sir is responsible for scaling corporate partnerships, leading security and privacy compliance projects, and working on all things security. He is passionate about integrating security and privacy in organizations to imbibe a culture of data protection by default. Sir, it is an honor to have you here with us today. I would also like to welcome Dr. Pavan Duggal. Dr. Duggal is a renowned expert in cyber law, cybersecurity law, artificial intelligence law, and e-commerce law. Sir, it is a privilege to have you here today. May I now invite the first team, Lex Dossier Private Limited, to give their pitch.
Good evening, everyone. So before I begin, I'm going to build on what Mr. Duggal said. He spoke about the scale of blockchain today. And I don't know if many of you all know this story. So cryptocurrency, the reason it became what it is today is because there was this young Texan man who wanted to sell drugs online. And there was no way to, buy drugs with normal currency. So that's why cryptocurrency was this redundant small currency which became, well, what it is today. But anyway, that's on a side note, and I'll talk about this. So, in life, what I've observed, dots connect, and that's why we all sit where we are. We're standing where we are today. And today, for me, two of those dots are sitting right here in the panel of juries. So, Professor Bose was our accounts professor, but I was less interested in accounts in this class and more interested in the electric mobility and AI that he used to talk about. And because of that, a little into law school, I built this technology for which I got patents. And that was just around the time I was in Professor Chauhan's class, who taught me intellectual property. And hence, I was able to go through the whole process. So while I was in that process, it was around a year's time, there were a lot of problems, there were a lot of inaccuracies because of the the strong human element in the whole process. And that's something that really struck me. And then, a little later on in life, I met an old friend of mine began this company called Aap Dossier. It was a research organization at that point to generate empirical data for arbitration. And it started while he was an associate at a law firm. But it grew so quickly. Within 2-3 months, we had tens of thousands of reads per report. And then he came to me and said, Devansh, this is a research organization I began. Why we should make this into a startup. So that's how we began what is today Lex Dossier. So I'm going to put this statement before you all. Getting a patent anywhere in the world is expensive, time-consuming, and uncertain. And I'll put the facts, the figures before you all later. Now, why is this? Today, there's an applicant. I'll put my own example. I was an applicant. I had a patent agent. But given the human centricity of the process, that patent agent has to rely on other patent agents, on their own network, on their own experiences to deal with this patent office here, which is also very human-centric. Now, I'll give you an example of how human-centric and how less data-centric the patent office is. So, for my own patents, I wanted to expedite the process because otherwise it takes very long. And in India, you need a female co-inventor as well. So I made my mother a co-inventor on my patent. So in the patent office, I used to visit pretty regularly. I was referred to as the person who gave his mother the patent because they had no data to rely on, no data to refer to me with. So now the human centricity of the whole process is about 90%, because of which there's errors, there's inaccuracy, there's delays, and because of which, the process is what it is today. Now the result is this. It takes on an average any country in the world 3 years to obtain a patent granted at 50% and costs $5,000 on average. Now the idea that we have is that with the use of data analytics, you can reduce this duration by 75%, legal costs by 65%, and you can increase accuracy by at least 50%. Now the need of this is because, as I said, the patent agents rely solely on the experience and the network, as do all of us lawyers. So with data analytics, instead of relying only on experiences and networks, you're relying on data of thousands and millions of patents, even applied for, not only granted, applied for anywhere in the world. And with that, we believe we can reduce the human centricity of the process to 40%, because with the use of technology, you don't need experience nearly as much. Although experience is important to be complemented with it. Now, I'll give you an example. The fastest Indian patent ever granted was 41 days, as opposed to your international average of 3 years. So you can see that it is possible, but we just need to make it get there. So the data parameters our database covers these are few of the parameters: are the probability of grant, the mistakes to avoid, possible legal objections you could get by these various other filters, and the best patent agent for you specifically as an applicant. These are the various filters. These are just few of them. And I'll show you a small demo now of how this is the prototype of our database.
This is a demo of our patent database. You begin by logging in with the credentials given in the application. So for today, we'll take one use case where I'm a patent applicant from London with an invention in the pharmaceutical space. So the 2-3 things that I want to know is the ideal application type that I should be filing, the most used appropriate office in India, and the most used patent agent in India. So let's put in our details. We're going to put in London here. So as we can see, for patent application from London from our current subset, the 309 patents which have been filtered with these fields of inventions, appropriate offices, types of applicants, and patent agents. Now let's further filter it for pharmaceutical inventions. So as you can see, 33 patents have been filtered, Mumbai being the most used office, PCD, national paid applications being the most preferred, and this patent agent being the most used. Now, we're convinced that Mumbai is the correct appropriate office for us, so let's filter to check whether the patent agent changes or remains the same. So 26 patents, and the patent agent is still the same. Let's filter for PCD national case applications. So as we can see, they are still the most used patent agent in this particular case. So this is just one of the multiple use cases and few of the multiple filters that this database will have for patent applicants as well as their lawyers.
So as you could see, that was a demo of our patent database. That's just the prototype. We'll have 40 or 50 parameters by August this year.
This is a demo of our patent database.
So now the advantages for the three different types of users. The patent applicants, so as a patent applicant, this is something I faced during the process. You rely solely on your patent agent. And because they only rely on the experience, you don't know exactly where you stand or how to improve your own chances of success. But with statistical parameters, you know exactly where you stand, what you can do. They know what they can do. So it as you can see for patent agents, it complements the experience with data. So it only increases efficiency, accuracy, and reduces the costs and effort over time. And for the patent office, so interesting story, I went and met the Controller General, Dr. Pandit, and I told him that, sir, we'd like to make this database. Can you give us the data? And he said, LexisNexis and Westlaw and all of them want the data. Should I give it to everyone? So he refused to give the data to us. And because of that, we built our own data extractor from the website. So we're the only ones who have Indian data with us. No other, not LexisNexis, not Westlaw, no one has Indian data. And he also mentioned that this would be extremely useful for the patent office to increase their own efficiency. So that's my co-founder Devash, and that's me. Devash went to Nalsar, then Columbia, worked at Federal, internships at these firms. I have patents. I was at Entrepreneur First briefly, and I worked at CM Fadnavis's War Room briefly as well. So now the novelty and competition for our product, these are all the similar, not similar exactly, but indirect competitors, because all of them have patent data. That is your final patent. None of them have patent application data from start to end, as I'll explain to you in the next slide. So this is an example of the whole patent application process. The blue circle you see is the data that these people have, and that helps you with that red circle there. That's it. They don't have any other data. So you can use this data for your novelty search, and probably, to understand your patent landscape and everything. But you don't know how to use it for your patent application process. So the scalability of this idea is, as you can see here, the green box is where we are today. But we initially began with arbitration, now we're here, and we want to go to these other jurisdictions, trademarks, copyrights, designs, then arbitration, corporate, even securities, and hopefully other areas of law as well over time with empirical data. So the market size here, I've given you two of these indirect competitors examples. They have revenues in excess of $5 billion a year because, they charge a good amount of money per user, and they have a large number of users because the novelty search, as you all know, is an important aspect of the patent application process. But they don't cover the remainder of the process, which is where we come in. Now, as for investor readiness, we began this, we put it out for trials put this database out for trials in March, beginning March. We've already got over 300 people who've used it. Just yesterday, I received my first paid users check, and 5 more have committed. Hopefully, we'll get their payment soon. And the current fundraise going on is $138,000 at that valuation. This should complete by the month's end. So that's where we stand, and that's my presentation. Any questions?
What about your data that you've extracted?
Yes.
Is that legal? Because,
It's all legal. So I spoke to the Controller General about it, and the data is all with them, and you can extract it from their website, but they won't give it to you. So that's why we built this extractor, which extracts all the data from their website. He said, go ahead and knock yourself out with the website, but I'm not going to give you the data. So that's what we did, and that's what sets us apart to start with for Indian patent data.
So in terms of monetization, when you are seeking to attract investment for your startup, there are already big players. So why is it, you have given a presentation, that is for sure, but how is it different from the competition that is already there in the market, and where do you have your competitive advantage?
So as I said, the current competitors, the indirect competitors, only give you data of the blue circle there, the final patent grant, which helps you with the red circle up top. But they don't give you any data about the process, and this is only for granted patents. No one talks about rejected patents. So if you want to increase that grant probability from 50% to maybe even 80%, you need to understand why the other 50% were rejected. And hence, that's where we come in. We come in where all these other boxes are there. We give you data on every single aspect of this process.
Very quickly, could you go into like the details of what data you look for when you are making that assessment of whether the application will be accepted or not?
Okay, so let's talk about probability of grant. So for by stage, you see all patents which were granted at every single stage, and based on that, so suppose we have 10 patents of which 2 were granted after the first hearing, 5 were granted after FER, and 3 were granted after the second hearing. So your grant probability after FER would be 50%, grant probability after second hearing 30%, and grant probability after first hearing 20%. Now by examiner, that's the interesting one. So every examiner gets a docket of patents, as you're aware, sir. So say they get 10 patents again, they reject 10, they reject 5, they accept 5, so it's a 50% probability there. So that's how we do it for each stage. By subject matter, again, similar.
So I just have a question around the pricing model that you
Sure.
have in place. So just want to understand, this is probably coming across as a subscription service,
Correct.
right? And your users would probably pay a monthly fee or an annual fee.
Right.
Now I want to understand, what are the caps that you're putting up for your users? Is it based on the number of searches, or is it based on the amount of data consumed? How are you planning to do that?
So we're planning to put this in 3 different segments. One is for patent applicants, who would be individual users. One would be for enterprise users, such as Reliance Industries, GE, big patent applicants. And the third would be for patent agents. So for patent applicants, the smaller ones, so I'll take my own example again. I only want to search maybe once, twice, or thrice. So for individual applicants, there'll be a one-time search fee, maybe 800 rupees or 1,000 rupees. Then going to the enterprise clients, again, based on the size of the company, starting from 5 lakh rupees all the way up to 40 lakh rupees a year. And for your patent agents, again, by size of firm, starting at 2 lakh rupees a year all the way up to 20 lakh rupees a year, unlimited searches.
So I just have one particular question, which is with respect to artificial intelligence. And the thing which Microsoft, etc., they were talking about is that there is a lot of people who want to say, suppose it is a startup, and they want to understand patents, etc. So they want to have a conversation, maybe in a regional language. So is that possible, and how are you planning the UI, UX for further development? That's my question.
So, sir, what we're planning is we've been in conversation with this company called Berry AI from San Francisco. What they do is they use the ChatGPT API, and with your own database, you're not using Google or any other database out there. You're using your own database, and ChatGPT is giving you answers from that. So I don't need to go and put in these filters any longer. I just search, ask a question, I get all the results there. And with language processing models, you can go to regional languages as well. Any further questions? Thank you.
Thank you. Now, the next team we have is agreements.legal.
Can you help us present?
How do I put it in full screen? We are presenting a AI tech company, by. Hi, good afternoon. My name is Shreyash Mittal. I am one of the co-founders of Agreements.legal. This is my colleague Parv Chawla. He's also a co-founder, and the third co-founder is unfortunately in the United States working at his job. So he couldn't be here today. He's sleeping right now. So I understood Dr. Pawan Duggal's presentation about the risks of GPT-4 and ChatGPT. You shouldn't use ChatGPT for legal purposes. The thing is, ChatGPT is a general purpose tool. What they have done is they have a complete language model capable of predicting what the next word is going to be and generate that text. But they have implemented it in a very general sense. You ask it a question, it does have a trained data source, but I don't think so it has a specified repository. What happens is they just wanted to show their prowess, what they can do. What they have done is they have given us the API. You can use the API to create specific solutions, something what we have done. So I'll give you a little background. I started with Agreements.legal 2 years ago. It was a basic form-like create a document solution, pre-drafted templates. You answer a question we have already put up, and it creates your agreements, your documents on the basis of it. The website is still operational, though not that great. That is one of the reasons I wasn't able to generate revenue. So I got two co-founders earlier this year to work in AI. So now what we have done is we have done prompt engineerings and we have accumulated data to give to our artificial intelligence, so that it predicts better. It gives you a better accuracy while you are creating your document. So what it is an evolving legal intelligence of sorts. We are training it on contracts, legal documents, judgments, basically for different purposes. So it can create review documents or generally help you manage, search through those documents if you are looking for certain clause or a certain contract or certain judgment. So we have started with the creation functionality, which why we have done it is fairly obvious. Dr. Pawan cleared it in his presentation. What it can do is save time. It can increase efficiency. I don't think so I can repeat it better than him. So I'll just go ahead and show. यार अब पीछे कैसे जाऊँ? हमारे presentation में नहीं website पे. हाँ. तो basically let's create a document. Let's create a document here. It's just a proof of concept we have created for the presentation. So we have certain options. The best thing it creates is the agreement, but let's take a attempt at pleadings as well. I have not tested before. If the jury members have certain ideas for what kind of a pleading it wants, you want to create on maybe some issues, you can give me an idea and I can enter the prompt to display it in live mode. So if either one of you has an idea, I can write a prompt.
Well, you have pleadings? Please have pleadings for a lawsuit against OpenAI for relying upon its output and losing clients as a lawyer.
It takes some time. I hope it's not banned content. क्या कहते हैं उसको यार? I hope it works fast. It'll give a very basic kind of a pleading, because there is one problem we are trying to cure next. That is, see, the OpenAI GPT-4 language model, GPT-3 language model, which we are using right now, because it gives more accurate results when we tested it. So what happens is there is a word limit on certain kind of prompts you can put. It's like 1,000 word limit. While we have surpassed it for our review document feature, we haven't been able to. I am really sorry. Yeah, it can work actually for any sort of legal document. And we have accumulated almost 6.5 lakh contracts, exhibits, schedules. The only problem is we don't have funds right now to fine tune it. So you have to put in annotated data and it charges you for the fine tuning process. So that is why we haven't been able to fine tune it right now. So it's just prompt engineering right now, which we are using to increase efficiency and sorts. So this is basically, we are still working on it. So what next we are trying to do is, there is a word limit on response. You see it's a very small pleading. So the next thing we are working on is how to create a longer pleading or sorts with a more descriptive. And for a few concerns Dr. Pawan pointed out in GPT-4 is the privacy issue. What we are going to do is we are going to implement a virtual private cloud, which is going to save your data, encrypt your data on your local device. It can't be accessed from anywhere else. For the accuracy part, it hallucinating and providing data which does not exist, what we can do is, what we are actually doing is, we can create a local repository of data and ask GPT to cite the data whenever it writes a response. Whenever GPT is asked to cite the source data, you can actually view it, whether the data actually exists or not. Because I faced this problem while I was using ChatGPT for legal research. It gave me a case name, it gave me a completely different citation, AIR citation, and gave me a completely different precedent. When I tried searching for it, it did not exist. So what we are doing it, we are feeding it all the judgments, all the contracts, and it has a repository to refer to. When it has something to refer to, it will give you a response. If it doesn't, it just says, I don't know. So that is for the idea. We can actually review a document. The second thing we can do is we can upload a 200 MB file and ask questions on the basis of it as well. So you can provide a document of any length. You can review it in n number of questions. You can ask what are the risks associated with the document. We are working on fine-tuning it. It works, but in a very sketchy manner right now. So that's why we didn't show it. So what our solutions is, I've shown you the create. I've shown you the view, full screen. We have shown you the review kind of a feature as well. I can show you personally after the presentation maybe how the review works. It isn't that great. We are using GPT's 175 billion parameters to make the search efficient. So when you upload documents to review, or when you create a document, you want it saved. And when you want it saved, you need it at your disposal when you basically need it. So you need to efficiently search for it as well. Now you want to search, maybe you have a case repository, you want to search a precedent, maybe an argument, in what cases it was cited. Maybe you want to search a certain clause and view all the examples or the contracts you created before. So those are the solutions that are going to be built around it to support this kind of a solution. We just dealt with the big two in the first attempt. So one of the things we are going to do after it is the mammoths is integrating a Microsoft Word application of sorts, like Grammarly, basically a sidebar, which gives you the ability to create and review in real time. You ask it to create, it gives you the response on MS Word. And then you want to include a why ChatGPT, my agreement doesn't have a non-compete clause. It will suggest you a non-compete clause. We'll have the chat functionality, or if you're missing something, we'll suggest it in our manner. It's upon you to change, to use, to accept, or to deny that change, because you have built the agreement thinking of something. Now, one more thing that we ideated upon, which is much more difficult to create, I don't know if we can do with today's means, is do a document review through WhatsApp. Basically create a WhatsApp chatbot. Everybody sends their documents through WhatsApp these days, MS Word file maybe. You can send it to our WhatsApp application. It can read it. We have certain questions on WhatsApp pre-filled. Maybe you want to write something about it. And you ask that question on the document, for the document. And on WhatsApp, it reviews that document or maybe suggests changes or something like that. Basically, we are trying to implement it for WhatsApp and Word primarily. And by Word, maybe Google Docs and Pages as well. That was product. And now the business mind is going to take over.
Thanks, Riyash. And so I'll talk about the numbers now, one of the most awaited part. It's all good till the time we discuss about the idea and say, okay, this is what we are going to do. But to be it an investor-ready business or how we are going to capture the market, that's what we are going to talk about here. So I'll give you an overall context how this legal tech industry is evolving and how much funding which recently has been coming into the legal tech. So in the last few years, in total, there has been around $11 billion in total amount of funding that has come to the legal tech. Interestingly, in the last 2 years only, that was a figure allowed cumulatively till now, but in the last 2 years, there has been close to $2.9 billion. Why I did mention these all figures is to tell you about, despite all these legacy players in the market, this industry is still evolving, still same solutions are coming, but with better tech, better integrations, and a lot of better solutions within the same infrastructure. So let's talk about the Indian market, let's say. There are close to around 1.5 million legal professionals in India. And we are on the least side, let's say we want to capture 2%. So that goes about like 30,000 lawyers who might be well equipped with the tech infrastructure and they're ready to use and try these services. In total, in the overall global economy scale, the legal tech industry is estimated to grow around 8.9% CAGR. So let's talk about this quickly growing new massive market. What we are doing different is that our price range, how we are pricing our product. I'll talk about the individual component breaking down in the next slide, but let's say about the customer base, how much we are charging. We are charging around, let's say, 12,000 for a year and 1,000 for 1 month. It costs us around $6 for 1,000 searches or 1,000 queries that has been sent by a user. So we charge you around like 12,000. It costs us around $72 about, and we make a profit margin of $78. That's what we intend to do. It's a low customer acquisition model, and we are mainly running on, as I mentioned, a SaaS-based model. This is more on the individual pricing side, but there is definitely an enterprise end as well. And we are still yet to figure it out, but we are still on the prototype stage. We have already shown you the MVP, and we are working day and night on improving it, getting more iterations, and getting more feedback as well. So this is a comprehensive GTM strategy. What we intend to do in the next 12-month phase, in the starting 6 months, from now starting onwards till the next 6 months, we intend to get 50 to 100 customers on board, get their feedback, majorly professionals working in top tier law firms, to get the best quality questions asked, best quality inferences that we can take on and improve our product. In the following 6 months, we intend to work on the SEO, get into more strategic alliances with the legal entities within India, and launch our affiliation programs as well for the users who have onboarded from the starting. And thus, it goes same by how all these companies, especially SaaS-based companies, intend to get into the market by working on their networking, getting onto the marketing. So I won't talk about all these basic components, but more on the side that what different we are going to do. So talking about the competitive landscape, there are still a lot of legacy players who still have very similar solutions to us. And one question that probably comes to your mind, what these guys are doing different. We have talked about numbers, okay, pricing is a good component. But one more thing is that we are very fast in terms of innovation. We can iterate the product, we can relaunch it, we can probably refine the algorithms much faster because we are integrated with the with the Berry AI services as well. That is working with the OpenAI, with the GPT solution. And working with them gives us much more better advantage in terms of faster research rate, getting the feedback as well from our customer side as well, so that we can iterate and relaunch the product as well. So going to the competitor side, this is what drafting and review is one of our two core areas that we are looking into. As I mentioned, there are legacy players, but yes, our pricing is one of the major advantages. Then on the drafting side, you could see that a lot of heavily funded players are coming into the place. And we just need funding in terms of to launch our product and make it better for the end user. And we are considering a runway for like next 12 to 15 months. And we want to raise like $100,000 for a valuation about $2 million. It was like, yeah, it's still yet to figure it out, but yeah. Yeah, it's still on the nascent stage, but just giving you a number around 10 million for a 5% stake. So on the expenses side, we want to hire more tech people because our CTO, there is only one guy who's working on the tech day and night. And I'm looking on the business side, where Mithil comes, Shreyas comes on the legal knowledge, legal acumen. And then yes, API cost takes a big chunk because we are integrated with a lot of API services, one being OpenAI, Berry, and then the enterprise cloud software management system as well. And then all these salaries components for the new hirees and everything. Yeah, so it's a glimpse about, we've already mentioned about our co-founders. That is me. I'm working in a venture capital firm. Shriyesh and Agge is in United States and working as a data scientist. Yeah, so that's a sum up, and we hope that you liked our presentation. Any questions?
Right. Hi, team. Good presentation. So I have a question about your pricing model, right? Particularly because you mentioned that this is the operational cost that you see for now, but when you take in other considerations, such as data privacy is one you mentioned, and there may be requirements where you have to deploy this in PPCs or probably on-prem networks, right? In those cases, your OpEx would go, to a higher level. So how do you plan on catering to those requirements, and would the pricing still be relevant in those cases?
So about the pricing, when we were calculating the pricing last night, I'll be very honest, what we were thinking was, let's take a higher side only. What we have calculated on the basis of is 1,000 queries in a month. 1,000 queries means 1,000 agreements created through our model. You are inputting 1,000 queries, 1,000 questions to review. You are not going to put that many. If you do, you are certainly an enterprise. You can't be an independent lawyer using 1,000 queries. So our pricing was in the worst case scenario. Worst case scenario, the guy uses ChatGPT for each and everything. Maybe for every clause they input a different query. Even then, if it hits 1,000 queries, then even then we have a revenue twice of the size. Plus, our OpEx is most of the cost that is going to be incurred because let's be honest, GPT-4 is doing most of the heavy lifting. We are just going to fine tune it. It's going to be an autopilot kind of a solution.
So also, what's your target demographic for this product?
So target demographic is basically we are planning to serve in the mid-income legal sector because there are a lot of competitors in this landscape. Let's be honest, contract lifecycle management system, documentation, legal research. There are a lot of players in this market, but the problem is they are very expensive. And at times they are so expensive, a normal person, they don't even earn that much what these services might cost.
So would you also target startups that do not have legal as a business function? And in those cases, when you generate these contracts or any kind of legal document, would you still need a legal professional to review the documents?
We can provide we were planning for startups with a legal team basically earlier on, and we were planning on mid-income lawyers who do not have access to such solutions right now because we are using GPT. It's certainly cheaper than building a custom solution. So we were going to get it for cheap, so we were going to sell it for cheap.
So let's say I buy your product and I do not have legal as a business function. Would I hold you accountable in case anything goes wrong with the contract?
What we can do is we can provide an legal counsel of sorts, or we can provide, because we are going to have a legal team of our own, because we are going to be annotating data to fine tune the thing.
So you plan on offering implementation services?
Maybe a services, yes. Okay. We are actually planning to operate a service of sorts where we use our product to display the prowess of the product so that people can take it as well. But it's going to be at a stage where we can actually hire people. So it's not right now. Right now it's the testing phase and looking for funding phase. So we certainly will have lawyers who might be available, who can be available to the end user, to the business at an additional cost, obviously, to provide a better guidance of sorts.
So my question is on the product itself. So whatever presentation we have seen, I think first thing which comes to my mind as a in-house general counsel, we have a team of, we have a legal team, and whenever there is a requirement to do so, every big company, for example, will have its own formats. If there is a procurement department within your function or within the company, they will use, they have their own formats. When they have to draft something unique or different for which formats are not available, normally you go to the Google and then you search and then you find templates. So that is perhaps the least cost competitor that you have in front of you. So what is your strategy to counter that? Something, for example, a services agreement. If I were to type on Google, I will get a format. For example, an automobile industry, if you want to have a dealer agreement, you type and it's available on the web. You may perhaps have a Maruti Udyog's contract, a sample contract on Google. So what is your strategy to counter that kind of free competition that is there on Google?
Free competition, in my opinion, we were trying to trump it with the low cost and basically a good contract kind of a model. We are trying to increase better the quality of our documents. So certainly, plus the custom element exists. Now you want basically a video sale agreement, basically you are selling videotape. You will get with the ChatGPT functionality, a lot of clauses tailored to that particular event. If you go on Google, you don't find exact same thing usually. I mean, if it's a rent agreement or maybe a sale deed, you are going to find what you're looking at. But if you want maybe a copyright licensing agreement or maybe a patent licensing agreement, like Devansh presented, maybe for patents. So you need something that is in connection to your business. The more descriptive your prompts are, I just put in one line. The more descriptive your prompts are, the more accurate those contracts are going to be, and that is going to be a one prompt thing instead of going through 10s or 20 web pages. So with the low cost model and the high accuracy or high customization, we are going to position it in a manner. And about the companies having their own contracts formats, we actually have a solution pre-built for it. So the last startup which I did for the past 2 years, what it was is I had my own templates. I created almost 300 legal documents and automated them on the website. It's still operational, I hope. I can access it as well. It's also agreements.legal only. So basically it operates like a form. You upload a document template, you put questions, it's an SSL certificate upload. So basically this is the existing website. It has 300 kind of documents. For example, let's take accounting services agreement, Karnataka. The states are irrelevant here. One of the reasons I am not promoting this website right now. Now you have question and answers. You have a pre-created document templates. What we are planning apart from the AI solution is to integrate the older solution and provide it as a platform where the companies can upload their own agreements and put their own questions. So it helps those companies not going through Word documents, searching through folders, and then inputting data. It automates their own documents in a question answer format. So this is an already built solution. We are going to, right now I have the ability to upload those documents, templates. We are going to make it such the user can upload it.
Just adding to it, that's why one of the other reasons that we wanted to hire legal professionals as well in terms of fine-tuning and annotations. Like this feature Shreyas mentioned, this is something we really want to add on in the future stages. But right now our focus niche area is that we develop this prototype and launch this product for the end user.
Can you go back to your slide which you talked about at 0 to 6 months, 6 to 9 months? I wanted to talk to you about your stage 2 and stage 3.
View. I'll do it.
Yeah. So right now you are on stage 1, which is 0 to 6 months.
Yes, sir.
Would you want to elaborate more to what you want to do on stage 2 and stage 2 plus what?
Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
For, as you can see, in next 6 to 12 months, at this time we'll be ready with the end product, let's say 2 or 3 iterations in the next 6 months in the first phase. Then we are ready to launch and go to the like full scale in the Indian market. And for the next, on the second phase side, we work on our alliances, networking, reaching out to the law firms, get into the referral programs, because that really helps when you are in the SaaS-based model. And once you're able to monetize your existing users, and that increases your word of mouth if your product is really good. So for the first phase, we really want to focus that we are able to give the efficient and right results and improve on the what feedback we are getting. Then following on the last phase, that accounts for like cumulative of, for starting from today onwards for the next 12 months. It's on the marketing side. So we're still exploring what sort of marketing would be better. Right now we are bootstrapped kind of. We don't have a funding till now. So earlier we decided, okay, let's go with the organic marketing. And there are a lot of communities that actually promote your products. And you go on Reddit and you speak about them, go with the freemium model, then get the feedback. And then on the basis of word of mouth, you get a good traction as well. So this is the area that we want to focus on the content. We want to build our audience and go with that route, basically. Is there any other question? All right.
Hi, so one very quick question. So the annotated data you have been mentioning, how are you sourcing that data?
There are freely available data sets of contracts. So one of those was Atticus Project COAD data. And after that, on, I guess, dataset.google, something like that, the tech side co-founder, he knows how to fish data which is openly available. So he has found a data set which contains 37 GBs worth of TXT files of contracts. That is roughly 6.5 lakh contracts, exhibits, annexures, and mostly related to the business side of the legal documentation, not pleadings and all. So we are sourcing it through open source. We are not taking anybody else's data. Or we are creating our own. We already have templates I created during that. Those are 1,000 templates of sorts, which are master templates. So we are going to create certain agreements on basis of this permutations and combinations as well.
Thank you.
Ma'am, no, they are not Indian contracts, but for the basic structure of a contract, it's more or less same worldwide.
No, you are going to struggle otherwise, because I am telling you, being a user of legal technology for 20 years and using all of the tools that you named here, you're going to struggle if you're not going to focus on the Indian documents.
Ma'am, we are trying to find Indian documents, to be honest, because
which you will not get. That is my. Thank you for asking that question, because I was going to ask that question.
Because we are going to create those documents. Then we are trying to plus one more thing that we are going to do is, because we are going to include the judgments and all, and we are going to include the Google functionality maybe. So what we are going to do is it can refer to the two data simultaneously. So it knows the legal position currently in the country as well while it's creating documents. Right now, what GPT is creating with our prompts is more or less adequate. It is basically those 5 terms in the rent agreement you need. Everything else is just making your agreement ironclad. So right now it has the capability to do it. You just need some sort of data. And one of the things which we were planning was asking legal professionals who are going to help out train this product to provide us some sort of contracts they have already created for the clients, but remove the names. We don't need the names or something like that. We don't need the confidential information. They can remove the names, or we can encrypt the names ourselves. So we were planning on asking them in maybe exchange of a discount. So we do plan on, but it's really hard finding
So
India
there are
data.
three things I want to tell you. I'm not one of the juries, but just out of experience, I'm really curious to tell you this, that one, you are trying to, like you said, you can draft an agreement from your product, and GPT will help. That I can do directly also on OpenAI. Okay, so I don't need your product. So you'll have to figure out why should I be using your product. Number two, you're not using GPT-4, you're using GPT-3. Perhaps you are bootstrapped, which is why you're not using GPT-4.
No, it's not the reason actually. Berry has GPT-4 as well, and Berry has GPT-3 Turbo as well. We tested it out, and the more accurate results were actually on GPT-3 Turbo.
But recently, if you've heard of the news of Harvey and Latch, both of them are using GPT-4, and they have better results for legal. Number three, what you said, get lawyers to test it. Again, they will not be able to give you that much of volume that you need to train these tools. So what you actually need is to partner with, I don't know who, maybe a law firm, maybe wherever you get that volume. But basically, if I tell you how Harvey works, it works on the KM database of a firm to make it relevant for legal writing. So that is what you need to focus on, because your clients are going to be your lawyers, right? So you need to focus on your clients' needs. And because your target market is India, please stop looking at US and wherever else, because the result is going to be terrible for the Indian lawyers. And then you will lose out in the race further. So focus on India and focus on lawyer needs.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, there.
Thank you. So the next team we have is Amter.ai. However, before that, we would like to state that we are running short of time. So we will be raising a play card once your time is up, and we will request you to wind up accordingly. Thank you.
This is not the.
Hi there.
Yeah. Hi everyone. Thanks a lot for the time. So I am in a bit of in a peculiar situation, because our idea is exactly what the previous presentation was, right? So I don't know how to kind of proceed further, but good luck to Shresh and their team. I think I have met him once. Yeah. So that's the irony, the beauty of irony. Here is, so it's just that we are a little ahead of these guys. That's what the situation is, but idea is exactly the same. I am a entrepreneur since teenage years, and before that I used to be a IP litigator as well. Before Amto.ai, I used to run an edtech organization for 7 years, and that's how I met Shreyas, and that's where he interned. So so let me introduce Amto.
AI virtual assistant that uses GPT-4 and other large language models at its core. However, I was specifically trained for legal drafting with the help of actual lawyers from some of the top law schools in the world. As a result, I do a pretty neat job at assisting lawyers like you while drafting contracts. I'm also directly accessible from Microsoft Word. Thus, when I'm around, I can take care of mundane stuff so that you can focus on high-impact issues.
Sure. So basically, I have two pitches, one for the tech community and the other for the legal community. My pitch to legal community is I'm an AI-powered LPO, right? So that's exactly what I am. So the idea is that if you were availing the services of LPO earlier, I'll do it at 1/5 of the cost. And I'll give you better data protection. That is the main beef these guys have with the LPOs. The second pitch is, if you couldn't afford the LPOs earlier, you can do it now with my pricing. That's exactly my pitches, and that's how we are acquiring customers. So let's talk about the stage. So we are done with the private beta.
We just launched our public beta on the 1st of the March, right? And we are in the process of acquiring our first paying clients as well. So we have two sets of clients. Some are like small law firms. So they are accessing us. They are accessing us on our web, or our product, which is directly accessible from the Microsoft Word. But when you talk about the larger organizations, which I say in India, say more than 50 lawyers, or in the US, if you talk about more than 250 lawyers. So we are also in the process of building a product which is called GPT in-house. So it can be deployed on their premise, or it can be deployed on a virtual private network that only they are accessible to, or nobody else can access, right? So our pitch to them is really simple, right? That everybody is going gaga over GPT-4, right? How do you retain your unique value, right? When the large language models and when AI will be commoditized, how Allen and Overy will be able to deliver the unique service to them. And we are the technology partners for doing that. And that's how they are more than happy to collaborate with us, and this is the strategy we are taking. I don't know whether we should be sharing this. So, but these guys are in pretty open, right? And see, right now, whenever I'm sharing it with investors. So one of the concerns they have, and this is a legitimate concern, is that there's so many players entering into the market. So they are legacy players, as these guys have mentioned, and I won't waste your time. They are also enabling GPT-4 in there, right? And then there's a plethora of new competitors who are coming in as well. See, providing access to GPT-4 via an API is a piece of cake. Any good coder can do it within 2 days, right? See, the idea is to provide results which are as good as written by a paralegal, right? So chatbots existed before GPT-4 as well, right? But what difference did GPT-4 made? It's the quality of the results, and that's where our focus is going to be, and that's where our competitive advantage is going to be. So we already have 5 lawyers on contract who are working with us on part-time basis, who are fine-tuning the data. So right now we are giving access to fine-tuned GPT-4. We are like one step ahead of prompt engineering. So yeah, that's basically where we are. And the value to the lawyers, as I mentioned, is like save time, make more money. And these law firm guys are pretty pragmatic and open to that. And if you talk to in-house counsels, they are always under the stress to reduce cost, the legal spend. And that's where we can come in and we can give them an assurance, and we can give them a quality which is as good as created by a paralegal. And now coming to the third question that I get really often is that, ChatGPT is available for free. Why should I be paying? As the very important question asked by ma'am. So my answer to that is that we are in the business of water, right, ma'am? Water is available to everyone for free. But why do we still buy Bisleri? That's what we are. Legal is not a joke industry. There are huge stakes involved, right? So when you are associated with us, we give you a lot more assurance than the tap water. And that's where our value proposition is. And that's what we are, the technology partner to the law firms and to the bigger law firms and in-house departments, as well as small and mid-sized law firms as well. So yeah, so basically the solution to all the legal problems is M2AI. My presentation is done. That's not really true, but yeah, we were going to go in a phased manner, and the product is exactly the similar to what these guys present. So I'll just give you
show you what I can do.
Demo of this.
New clauses. With my assistance, you can draft precise and tailored clauses that meet your specific needs without leaving Microsoft Word. Instead of combing through old drafts or wasting time finding a template, just tell me what kind of clause you need, and voila! As I have been trained on billions of lines of legal text, you can leverage the collective wisdom of numerous lawyers to draft effective and thorough contracts. You can also share part of the existing contract with me so that I better understand the current context and generate far superior suggestions that match your writing style and preferences. I was designed with privacy at my core. Whether you want to keep it, modify it, or instruct me to regenerate the draft, it's up to you. You are in charge. My suggestions are not just focused on fixing clerical mistakes. I can also help you to write more clearly and concisely.
So that's where we are. We have already submitted our product to Microsoft Store. They are in the process of approving it, and within a week or two, we would be accessible directly from the Microsoft Word. That's the most recent update. As I said, all the other features would be there. You want to revise it, you can select the clause, give instructions, it would be able to there. You can have a clause library, it can give you negotiation points, right? So that's one part. The second product that we are in the process of launching, which is replying to the pesky emails, right? So we all hate that. A typical situation, like think about this, is a small lawyer who just received an email, right? Like, I have started a wearable technology market. I have just started a startup and I want to know whether I should sign a potential NDA, right? Now, as a new lawyer, you want to give a detailed reply to this guy, but at the same time, you know only one guy out of 10 like these emails is going to get converted. So what do you do? And that's where M2AI can come in, and it can create a very detailed response, which is not just just pure law. It can give you an amalgamation of law plus business advice. And just FYI, this is an actual response created by M2AI. There's no human intervention. I think this is kind of a tradition in these kind of presentations. So this is an actual reply. And so you can see that, it has created a detailed reply. After that, supposedly the client says, okay, go ahead with the creation of the NDA. It can again list out the information that it needs to kind of, create an NDA. And using that information, it can also automatically generate the NDA, which you can look at and, approve. As I said, as Pawan sir has rightly said, there are a lot of unknowns in these situations, but I look that as an opportunity, right? That somebody who is just focused on the legal market with the legal acumen, with the ability to hire a team and manage them really well, would be able to provide a much better response, because this is one of those areas where you just can't get data. And in any AI startup, it's all about whether you have a source of data that nobody else has, right? Because the computing power and everything is more or less accessible to everyone. So it's all about creating that data, and there's a reason all the LPOs are in India, right? So our pitch is that we are going to make LPOs redundant in the next 3 years. And it's a huge market, right? So, yeah, so I will, more things, they were quite similar, so I will not repeat. So right now, we, as a startup, focusing on US plus Indian law. Our TAM is $2 billion, SAM is $300 million. Basically, when you get into it, then these are just the pitch meeting numbers. But see, one thing that I really wanted to stress, how we are going to beat everyone else who is going to come into the market. That's going to be the speed. Right now, I'm like suggested by the doctor that I should be going one surgery, but I'm saying no, unless we get to a level where we have a moat which can't be breached by anybody else, any other startup. That is the pace we need to get really as quickly as possible, and somebody is going to be. And my pitch is, considering at the theme, so we have a CTO who is working for Amazon on their ML models. You have a chief marketing officer with experience of 5 to 10 years, and you have me, which is doing everything in between, and that's why my picture is in between as well. So yeah, so that's pretty much our pitch. This is my contact number. If anybody wants to contact us, they can click a picture of it, or just visit m2.ai, and we are always there to support. Any questions? Thank you. Thank you.
I
Hi,
have
sir.
I have a question. This is actually for the previous presentation and this one.
Yes, sir.
I'm not a legal person. I'm not a technology. Yet I am here. What I do understand is risks. There's a particular problem which is happening is OpenAI's ChatGPT is definitely not suitable for law. Okay, it is, if you understand the transformer models and the things, it of
Yeah.
course hallucinates. Okay,
Absolutely, sir.
So first there's artificial intelligence, and a subset of it is machine learning, and a subset of that is neural nets. Neural nets, how it works, we do not know. However, the source code for OpenAI's is definitely to just predict words and nothing else.
Exactly.
Other GPT models are extremely important, and therefore your suggestion was the Indian language models, or for example, there's another one, something called Truth GPT, and we
Yeah.
have to create our own GPT, an India-centric GPT for first truth, filters truth, and filters Indian nuances. I think a major challenge here is not to create an API for ChatGPT. That is a wrong way down. And if we go and create infrastructure there, we are already gone in the wrong direction by far. So my only risk assessment over here is that for Indian startups to look into correct GPT models, create open AIs there, and start building our own truth Indian nuanced models for GPTs, building our own GPTs. That will be a good start.
Yeah, I completely agree, sir. But our strategy is building a custom GPT for anyone who is willing to pay the most. Because at the end of the day, we are a startup, we have to make money. And I understand the need of it, and like but if you talk about the paying capacity, there is a substantial difference there. So that's why our prime focus is going to be the US market. What all you are saying, definitely that is definitely on the card. As I said, we are in the process of building GPT in the box that you can have in your premise or your own private network.
My extension to your thing is, you wanted water, there's Bisleri,
Yeah.
but maybe what you're selling is alcohol.
Maybe, sir. Agree to disagree. Thank you.
How much money are you looking at, and how quickly you want to get it in the next what time frame?
Yes, sir. So right now we are looking for somewhere around $500,000 for 6%. So obviously it's subject to negotiation. Yeah, but that's pretty standard at this stage. And I've looked at the competing models. So that's something I think we'll have a runway for 8 to 9 months with that.
Yeah. Also, what is your current client base like, or how many recurring clients do you have?
Yeah. So our private beta was with 54 clients, 54 lawyers. 40 of them were from India, 14 were from the US. Right now we have more than 150 clients who are using it, and we are in the process of acquiring 3 to 4 paid users. So we have just launched the paid functionality. It's not live yet, but we wanted to see how much, what is the client adoption and what is their willingness to pay. So there's one difference there. So we are charging on the per word basis. So and again, the economics is exactly the same. As I said, ours is a little pricier because we are serving the fine-tune model. So for a non-fine-tune, you pay somewhere around 3 cents, 2 to 3 cents. For fine-tune, you pay something around 13 cents. So our pricing is a little more expensive, but economics is more or less the same. Okay. Thank you very much, sir. Sure, ma'am, please.
But you started your pitch with saying that you could consider me as an LPO.
Yes, ma'am.
And
AI
you
powered
also-
LPO.
Yeah,
Yes, ma'am.
and you also said that you would want to. That's your wish, that you would want to eliminate all LPOs from the country.
I don't wish to do that, ma'am.
You will do it.
It's a side effect of my business.
Okay, but you know what? When you started with the LPO thing, I
Yeah.
was actually looking forward to seeing what are the services that you're going to offer.
Yeah.
And the only service that I could see is drafting.
Contracts.
So,
You're
but when
absolutely
you're
right,
saying
ma'am.
LPO, where is e-discovery? Where
Ve-
is research?
Very good
Where is
question.
contract extraction?
Yes, ma'am. So that's exactly, you're absolutely right. So we started with the litigation support, but the comfortableness of the user for sharing the litigation was really high. and it was really hard to convince them. So so our first product was MTO Lit, MTO plus litigation support. That's how we started. But we saw that the customer adoption was really hard to do, because they, most of the time they were giving the documents which was in the process of trial, right? So that's why we shifted to contracts, because people are a lot more it's a lot more easier to convince them to share their contracts, share a part of the contract, and that's
That's
why.
fine. So then in that case, in your pitching, you shouldn't say LPO, because you're not doing anything that an LPO does.
Yeah.
It's rather better to say that, you're building another Harvey for India or wherever else.
That's not the vision, ma'am. So I agree with you.
But not the LPO part. You'll have to eliminate that from your pitch,
As you
because
said,
we are
ma'am.
not seeing anything LPO-ish.
I get your point, ma'am.
Yeah.
I completely agree.
I think what I would like to emphasize is that, if you're looking at corporates as your target clients, corporates have started to increase their own staff, to
Yes.
do routine things like what you have
Yes, sir.
demonstrated on your app. So I think what needs to go is, I think a high value proposition is something which should come in your solution.
Exactly.
I think what you are trying to do is something which has been there for a very, very long time. It may be, your website looks very fancy, which is true. But I think the solution also has to be a very high value proposition, because if somebody like a corporate sector would like to use your solution, it should be for a very, very good value. That value proposition is missing.
Absolutely, sir. So I'll like to take the credit that I thought about it all along, but that's not true. I started with this solution. Because I have been interacting with the users on a daily basis, so I kind of understanding what can create a value for them and what can't create a value for them, and that's what that interaction has nudged us to focus on the high value clients rather than providing a service, because there is a lot of competition going to be coming there, and that's not where our focus is at the moment. Sure. Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Next up, we've got Legit Law.
Yeah. Hi, it's Vibhojan, and it's our company Legit Law, and we are here to prove out how you can legit have the right to a lawyer, and that's how we go ahead. The idea is that the legal system currently in place has some sort of incumbencies, it has some sort of efficiency problems, and the major part of those come to these 5 categories And before I stretch on these, I'll just tell you that we're a B2C company essentially, which is something which you have not seen up until now, I guess. Understand that there's lack of awareness amongst the audience when it comes to legal processes. There's an idea of a legal expense that whenever someone thinks about going forward and getting into a litigation process or going forward and approaching even a particular lawyer, there's this idea of very high legal fees that exist. Thank you so much. Yeah, so there's a lack of trust in the system out of basically two basic ideas. First of all, in terms of who to approach, whom to approach, if everyone is not connected by a nepotistic lawyer or everyone does not have the pockets to afford a good lawyer or reputed lawyer, they do not know which lawyer to approach in terms of them being able to have reliance. Second of all, the idea of taboo. Understand tier 2, tier 3 cities where topics like matrimonial disputes and property disputes are something that people want to conserve in their households and not have a human intervention happening amongst it, or at least happening amongst in their neighborhood around areas, right? And the last idea of lack of accessibility. This actually we got out of a survey which we conducted of 200 people, which is surprisingly we conducted in Delhi itself amongst the audience of 18 to 25, where we asked them a very simple question that the people who face a difficulty out of like 5 basic broad categories which we were trying to explore at this point, which includes harassment, cybercrimes, matrimonial disputes, property disputes, and consumer disputes. And out of this, in those 5, the people who face those difficulties, they said that their legal accessibility was 1 out of a scale of 1 to 5, and that's something which was extremely shocking, and that's why that's right up there. Our solution, very simple, we are developing an app. The app has a 3-pronged approach, and that is something which will clear to you on the next slide. The first part is basically a platform for the people. What that does is, it's basically a very simple speech-to-text prompt generator, which will give you a very actionable legal roadmap, which you can go ahead and figure out whether what you have faced comes off as a problem and you have a legal recourse available to it, and provides you with the information required, and then provides you with a 10-minute free legal consultant call right afterwards, so that you go ahead and avoid any sort of incumbency problems that exist, which I've been talking about ChatGPT. And since it's an Indian audience and the audience is, we are providing it for free, the idea of people going ahead and getting on that call also becomes more. This is where we get separated from our competitors in this entire category, and I'll tell you how we otherwise generate our revenue. That comes from a phase 2 and phase 3, and this is the whole reason why we need funding. Phase 2, we are going to go ahead and have online user-generated petition filing. What that basically would look like is something very similar to change.org, but we'll have explicitly different criteria in terms of how change.org does not require any sort of evidence, any sort of photos which you have to put forward while filing that petition. It can have frivolous petitions, and that's why the generalized scenario there means it has an explosive number of petitions listed out there, which causes a lot of people not to go ahead and sign up on it, or to take it with less gravity to it. The idea where we try to ask for relevant evidence, for instance, if you had a consumer dispute and the restaurant said no to you in terms of providing adequate response on it, you file a petition on a platform in terms of this listing of this particular restaurant, and you click up photographs of the food quality which was bad, and you list out the audio recording or a possible video recording of the person you interacted with, which our first part of the app will tell you to do exactly when you are in that particular situation. The third idea is the idea of approval ratings and polls. Currently, when the policymakers try to go ahead and generate policies, very basic example, how free internet was going to be provided to the entire country by Facebook, but the demographic that was studied for providing that free internet and its acumen was studied was Delhi. At that point, Delhi said no, because they primarily do not need it. It was not targeted to the correct demographic. The idea that we are able to go ahead and percolate to the demographic because of free service initially, and we are targeted at providing legal recourses to this audience, we're able to generate better approval ratings, and those ratings are essentially where we start generating some money. And fourth will be Legit for Enterprise, where we just provide research assistant tools in terms of whatever data we collect with our human interactions. We're able to provide all that data, relevant data, when we go ahead and provide these people to enterprises to file a case, and we're able to provide those enterprises with the way these consumers interact. And that sort of data is something which is not existing currently in a tabulated fashion. Next slide. The current market approach to this idea, right? The current market approach if you do not Google it, this is what you end up doing, right? There's either brokerage service available for legal services, or there are just appointment-based conferencing, or someone comes to your doorstep. The idea why we ourselves are differentiated from that is because we provide both of those two things. We do not just rely on AI as a sole material to provide you with a legal recourse, but also provide you with a human intervention in terms of a legal assistant call, which is provided to you on the spot, which you can choose to interact with, at least for the first 10 minutes, which is free of cost entirely. The way we generate money is through the next two steps, and that is why we're able to provide that for free. No other competitor in the market has done this in terms of ensuring that the legal accessibility aspect is provided free of cost and try to generate revenue out of ulterior methods. Furthermore, our GTM is something which is extremely different because we are college students and we are currently in Delhi, and we're trying to focus on spreading it across the startup community in the HR departments and student bodies in multiple universities and colleges. And I'll explain further to you in our GTM strategy. Basic competitive advantage, we have one-stop legal solution. The idea that to make people feel empowered when they come to our app, understand the user journey that experience, right? First, even if whenever you have a problem, there's someone who is there to listen to you. You can put it out there and it'll validate whether you had a problem or not and provide you with some form of legal consultant call, which you can talk to a person and understand whether the problem, what sort of redressal mechanism or recourse is available for that particular problem. The second idea, understand any sort of opinion or any sort of policy which is being made does not essentially have your opinion or as a general citizen's opinion being validated into it. The policy makers are not able to percolate to that level, which we provide to you by our approval ratings mechanism. And second, when user petitions, when there's a certain policy which gets proliferated, the idea that you're able to voice against it and gain social media traction and subscriptions on that particular petition is something which we go ahead and provide to you as a community support mechanism, which you're able to go ahead and voice out your opinions better and more faster and feel more support and empowerment from it. Now, simple question, how do you make money, right? First, any subsequent legal consultant calls after that 10-minute, we charge it on a per minute basis, and that's as simple as every other competitor is doing. What every other competitor is not doing essentially is petition marketing. What we go ahead and do, if you file a petition on our front, for instance, whatever happened in IPCW, what they would have done is the student body, instead of going on Instagram and Twitter, would have come on our app and filed a petition to go ahead and have this particular stepped out. We would have marketed it for them, and that is where we start to charge on a freemium model. The third idea, commission on donations. When you gain support on your particular movement, you're trying to have, let's say, a climate change rally, or let's say you're trying to build forward a movement against a particular law, against a particular act, you end up getting donations. We charge a simple commission on those donations and end up generating that. Fourth, conducting approval ratings and surveys. Media houses, government agencies, policymakers, NGOs can subscribe to us, ask for us to conduct their surveys, get us to target a demographic. We conduct those polls with proper disclaimers, and that's how we end up generating a revenue model. Our GTM strategy, very simple. We go ahead, we have we have verbal agreements with all of these student bodies who are ready to go ahead and proliferate our app in this, in the student bodies and the representatives. We have talked to multiple influencers for their advertisement. We are targeting HR departments of multiple startups because we come from IT Delhi. We have like a big startup culture around available to us. So we are talking to everyone's HR departments to go ahead and give this app, and the best part of this GTM is it's absolutely free to give. The fourth, word of mouth. We have like connections in terms of high like esteemed judges and people like that whom we're trying to contact in terms of providing a good word of mouth advertisement for our particular platform. And last, digital marketing in terms of creating a podcast, Instagram channel, SEOs, Instagram ads, and all of this stuff is currently which is happening in terms of content creation. If you go ahead and figure out the legal influencers on Instagram currently, even in India, they have 200,000 followers and plus. At that point, that's what we're trying to target in terms of digital marketing and creating a repertoire of our own for that particular instance. This is our team. I myself am Vibhor Jain. I'm from ITLE, a BTech student. Akarshan Saxena, my fellow co-founder, he is also from IIT Delhi. We have Professor Sanjay Mitra, he is ex-Defense Secretary of India, and he is a professor of public policy at IIT Delhi. Professor Ardra Burra, who is JD from Yale Law School, who is teaching, who is a professor of critical thinking at IIT Delhi. We have Anshul Pandey, who is co-founder and CTO at Asern, who is helping us develop our NLP model. And we have Rakesh Mishra, who is the founder of Sutra Creations, who is our digital marketing expertise helper. And with that, any sort of questions, please feel free to reach out to us. No, actually. Yeah, so currently we were in the ideation phase up until a week ago. We just started developing the UI mockups for a particular product, and we have not been able to present it because the company actually just started on 27th March. Yeah. And this is like just out of our pure networking, out of us being in wherever places we have been.
So the impression that I get, can you go to the first chart that you had? Go further, please. I think, no, go to the third or fourth where you have the various services. Yeah. Yeah, so I like this chart, you know, frankly, I like this chart. The intent is very good. And why I was asking you the demonstration, because when you are talking about creating a legal connection of lawyers, law firms, students, so it will take a lot of effort. You know,
Correct.
for example, if I were to look at find a lawyer type of a solution in Bangalore or somewhere, so I think the intent is good, but on demonstration side, perhaps we are not seeing what you are trying to do. It's a good phase-wise approach, but on demonstration is something which I wanted to see.
So the idea of that phase-wise approach is very, like, that's how like you'll understand like a bit of the demonstration process as well. We kept it in phase 4 for you to get in touch with lawyers, because once we're able to generate enough traction amongst users, only then we'll be able to have lawyers come on board with us, because we'll be able to provide good amount of incentives as a barter to those lawyers, and only then we'll be able to go ahead and gain traction out of those lawyers. Otherwise, that does not just make any sense, because lawyers will just say no to us because, well, who we are. So that's why the first aspect is just creating that legal chatbot which is free of cost and is able to be deployed. And what you're using it for, we will be using essentially the DaVinci Chat GPT 3.5 Turbo with the fine-tuning aspect. When you calculate the cost of it, our CAC is around 90 rupees to 100 rupees per person. And at that particular price range, like that's why we're not able to go ahead and proliferate, and that's why we're seeking funding for it.
And your platform for the people also is a good concept. But you know, legal consultation is a very hard thing to achieve. You know, we have experts like Mr. Duggal sitting here. He has spent how many years to develop this competency. But if somebody were to look his competency on your platform, you would need a person like him.
Understood.
ChatGPT cannot substitute him. We have
and that is the whole point where we mentioned that we provide a 10-minute legal interaction call absolutely free after that ChatGPT interface. Because the idea is that we want you to go ahead and interact with a human, but we do not want the hassle to exist where you feel like you need to talk for 10 minutes, at least before you have some form of information in your head, so that you're able to have a better conversation with the person you're going to have a conversation. Because the main problem which we figured out was the idea of lack of information and knowledge which exists among people. People are unaware about the laws of harassment or laws pertaining to workplace harassment that exist even in companies, or at least definitely in startups, because they're not that well versed and they're not that big at that particular moment. So our entire demographic or the entire market which we'll be targeting will be tier 2, tier 3 economic sections of society, tier 2, tier 3 cities essentially. And at that place, this is where so the legal consultation call is not to provide you with the end solution of the case, but just to make you feel that there's some problem that has happened with you and there's some form of recourse that is available by judiciary for you, and you're not left out alone.
So yeah, so exactly the point is, it's a good intent.
Correct.
But how you will achieve it is the biggest thing.
Achievement in terms of
achieve the services. How I will avail these services, what is the work product that will come to me, is a question mark. Intent is good.
I'll briefly tell you the product which will come to you in terms of the user journey. Imagine you are at your home, you went to a restaurant, you've ordered a meal, you found a hair in your meal. What you currently go ahead and do, you fight with the restaurant manager. The manager can get you two things. Either they go ahead and give you a compensation, or they go ahead and tell you that's what happens. At that particular point in time, when you found a hair, if my app existed, you would go ahead and come on my app, you would put I found a hair in my app, hair in my food. The app will go ahead and give you a response that according to this is a deficiency of services, according to this is a consumer case which could be filed. At that point, when now you go ahead and talk to that same restaurant manager, you just have more knowledge while you go ahead, and the amount of trade that happens at that particular point, you stand at a higher pedestal in that particular negotiation. That is all that we aim to achieve with that particular legal chatbot. We do not aim to achieve that this particular person goes out and files a consumer file case now, And that is the whole idea behind this, right? Because it also avoids a frivolous filing which happens randomly because people just woke up and wanted to go ahead and do something. Because you come ahead and at least have some first form of filter available after which you go ahead and decide whether you want to file a case or not. And that filter also includes a legal consultation call which we provide to you free. That is also available to you instantly because that backend team is going to be hired by us and available at disposal. That's where our phase 2 and phase 3 come. Phase 1, we just lose money. Every B2C product, first year, we cannot generate money, and that's our entire idea. We'll be burning approximately 2 to 2.5 CR before we achieve our first paycheck. And that's the B2C play, because we have to gain a level of traction amongst the users so we're able to deploy our other phases in terms to start generating a revenue. The other two phases, it's a very direct form of revenue in terms of freemium model for the petition filing, in terms of getting analytics available for your petition you file, you're getting marketing available for that. We'll take commissions on donations that you are getting for your petitions or your rallies or your social change movements which you're trying to proliferate. And the fourth aspect in terms of conducting approval ratings and surveys, because our app is something which is going to be free of cost and we're trying to spread it across. We gain an amount of user traction, you're going to go ahead and conduct those polls which will be paid for by, let's say, NGOs or media houses in terms to generate just the public traction of a particular policy being implemented, which currently just happens in little vacuum chambers in multiple cities and does not hit a general audience, but then just becomes generalized and then it becomes problematic.
Who's going to be liable for the advice that you're giving? Even that advice of that, go to the consumer court or you have this recourse, legal recourse. Who's going to be accountable for that? Because the lawyers that you're getting or this chatbot that is answering, who's validating? You can get as many lawyers. Who's going to validate that they are accurate?
So we are getting esteemed lawyers in our team to go ahead and keep on cross-checking. The data we are providing to ChatGPT as well for fine-tuning is something which is self-sourcing and like just rechecking again and again. And second of all, we also go ahead and have this entire process in which we keep on updating that data every week or a very high frequency of time to ensure that the data stays
Tell me one thing. Okay,
new.
Great. Just tell me one thing. Who's going to be if I get an incorrect advice from your chatbot?
Correct.
I'll sue you.
No, the idea would be that there's really a big fat disclaimer out there for you that this is something which is not something which can happen in terms of it being a legal advice, and that's why we are not putting forward ourselves as a law firm, but rather just a platform that informates you and provides you with knowledge, and that knowledge is something which is available to you.
Use it at your own risk, basically.
Something on that line, yeah. Any other questions? Thank you so much.
Thank you. Hello. Yeah. So the last team for today is Lorbit.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Joanne. Yes.
Hello.
Yes, Joanne, please go ahead.
Yeah. Are we audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay.
Mike, can I request the camera can be moved towards Julie or the
Is it possible?
audience? All right.
That's not possible.
Not possible.
Somehow, Jayant.
Yeah.
Not possible? Okay. The IT person told me that it's possible, so I thought that's going to be possible. All right. Hi, good evening, everyone. Sorry for not being available in person. Had some urgent engagements which I couldn't avoid today. And I also just heard from Frank and Fatima that there were a lot of students back here, and many of them have started moving out. So may I try and get their attention back here? It's going to be it's a very interesting field. The legal aspirants, the lawyers, and the law graduates, they should find this legal tech space very exciting. There's a lot happening. I think this is the future. So guys, if you're around, please look through what's happening here. There's something which may be of interest to you. Good evening, the juries. Sorry, I'm not able to share my screen. If I can help me with this, please.
Just one sec.
Now you can share.
Thank you. So in a quest to just engage our friends a little more, if I can hear something from the students here. What's more complex, law or technology? Mike, if you have, or if you have heard something from them.
Yeah, some of them are saying law, some of them are saying technology. So how many of them are saying technology?
Few.
Very few, okay. And how many of them are saying law is...
Yes, many.
Oh. Since we are sitting in the lawyers, law college, so this is but obvious. But yeah, Jayant, please go ahead.
So I'm taking on the analogy. I'm sitting in between lawyers, and the lawyers saying law is complex. And think about a common person like who doesn't understand law. He still plays with technology day in and day out. We all have gadgets, fancy gadgets, apps, everything, but we don't understand the law. And that's one debate which we always keep having. And it's very interesting. It's been in legal tech, reg tech space for almost 11 years now. I keep debating with my colleagues, with my team, with my industry colleagues about the definition and what should be legal tech, what should be the reg tech, what should be the focus. And most of the time we end up having that reg tech, legal tech should be, should focus on simplifying the process around the lawyers, be it working in the corporate or in the law firms. But one thing which we also, believe very strongly, the legal tech must go beyond lawyers and focus on simplifying the understanding of laws and ease the adherence with those laws and compliances globally. Think about it. Today, we can put numbers to everything. Can we put numbers to laws? Can we put numbers to how many pages of documentation is available? Being in this industry for more than a decade, I have still not been able to answer this. How many pages of documentation on laws is available in our country? Trust me, many times, in the last few years, we've heard the government has, removed hundreds of laws, thousands of laws. How many laws are there in India? I don't think anybody has a clear answer how many laws. And think about globally, the complexity is very, very huge. Bringing to you NORBIT, Global Compliance Network. as the word goes in global compliance network, so we are not just trying to build a solution, we are also trying to build a community, which is, not just in India, which is globally, which is, a community of lawyers, legal experts, who can comment, who can work, who are experts in different areas of laws, sitting in different parts of the world, and can solve one single problem of the enterprises globally in terms of helping them understand what laws and compliance they have to adhere 24/7. We are enabling businesses to be agile and better compliant globally, covering across 70 plus countries, where we are targeting to cover around 1,000 plus authorities. And as of today, we are covering around 3,500 plus laws and acts globally. Now, what exactly we are doing? What is the problem statement which we are trying to solve? Let me just try and focus on that. We are all running businesses, sitting here. We are all understand, we have to comply with a lot of laws. As again, I'm reiterating, how many laws are there in India, we don't even know. At a business person level, when you start up and think about it, as a startup also we have so many challenges of laws and compliance. Imagine if your organization grows, you become big, you have multiplicity in terms of locations, in terms of your entities, in terms of your states, in terms of then going global countries. How do you tackle the compliances on a day-to-day basis? Very common example, very common line which we use in our fraternity, that a law, a compliance officer can never be 100% compliant. An organization, because today you achieve 100% compliant, tomorrow morning you have one more compliant, which is which is pending for your action. It is an ongoing process, day in and day out. Every day you have to comply with laws. Think about it. If you have to, let's take an example. Here we are giving you sort of an example. If I have to run a very small, plain Jane kind of a business, an IT business, I have to open an IT company, ITS company in India, I have to comply with around 50 plus laws. And how many compliance? 1,000 plus. And I have to run NBFC, I have to comply with around 70 plus laws and 1,500 plus compliance. Rules RBI, RBI, companies like GST, income tax, HR laws, interest laws, and many other laws. And this complexity is not just in India. This complexity is global. I'll give you one example of compliance. Now, when we were doing a project for a large local brand in Netherlands, we realized there were 90 plus, rather there were 150 plus laws. I was trying to be more moderate when putting the numbers here. It's actually 150 laws, around 1,200 plus compliances applicable on that hotel in Netherlands. India, the complexity was slightly lesser. When we did a similar kind of project for a 5-star, 7-star hotel in India, we realized there were around 80 laws, around 75 plus laws, around 800 plus compliances in India. Where in Netherlands, this number will be even bigger. The challenge faces their complexity with legislators and regulators. You have to comply with central laws, state laws, municipal laws, Gram Panchayat laws. They are changing every now and then. In India itself, there are around 30 odd notifications which comes from different regulators on a daily basis. I'm talking about daily numbers. And it could be a one-pager, simple non-pager notification, or it could be a 100-pager or 200-pager major amendment also. And over the last 1 decade, you would have seen the pace at which the laws are changing has become very, very fast, very, very fast. And the biggest challenge comes here is, when your organization grows, you have to bring the common understanding about compliances, what you have to comply with, how you have to comply with across organization. I'm running an HR function, I can't say, okay, I have this understanding of compliance, let finance decide how they want to comply, and let board give adherence, or let our CFO give an adherence, the CEO give an adherence to the board and to the stakeholders on our behalf that we are compliant. There has to be one standardization. There has to be one standardization mechanism, way to look at the compliances, look at the risk, look at what is our tolerance level as an organization, and how we are complying with this, and how we are consolidating this data. This is one of the major challenge in any organization, because you can't have so many resources, so many specializations, because company secretary possibly cannot be so fluent factories that an EHS guy would never know GSTs in depth. So everybody across the functions, they are dealing with compliance, but there is no common thread in between them. So this is what the problem statement, and this is what the magnitude is. I'm showing some numbers for some of the clients, and think about it. We are running a hotel, 27 hotel properties only, and around 18,000 plus compliance you have to be aware of. And this is ongoing every day. These are numbers which you have to be aware of. So what is our value proposition? What is that we are bringing on table? Lorbit, and I'll go deeper into it in the coming slides. Lorbit has already built enterprise GRC products for for large, medium-sized, small enterprises, startups, which helps them comply with their all the laws and regulations all applicable on them in 70 plus countries. What we have achieved till date, and obviously there are we call this GCMS. Along with GCMS, there are other suite of products and GRC products which we have. But GCMS is a flagship, so we'll focus on it. Maybe if time permits, we will come back for the ones also. Along with this, we are also offering allied services, beach operation support, compliance search, business assessment, implementation services, to ensure that clients are able to use the products effectively. Because as I say, compliance is never a one-time job. It does never, after implementation, it just doesn't end. It starts from there. So you have to build those engagement models also, where the client can effectively use the product on a long-term basis. What we have achieved till date, we are around 60 plus enterprise clients globally, 200 plus legal entities across which are using our products around 1,000 plus locations. We are currently serving around 70 plus countries. We are very customer focused. And the last two NPS surveys which we do once in 6 months, Net Promoter Score is 42, which is in a SaaS balance is an excellent score. 100% client iteration, which is not there in the industry across our industry. There is no single client, no single service provider who has 0 client iterations or 100% enterprise client retention. We have built a strong team of around 50 plus employees, which includes lawyers, company secretaries, engineers, accounting professionals. And the way we are approaching our market is through direct channel. We have our own sales engine which runs, and we are also having a reselling partner. Quick glimpse on the team, which is making this entire engine run. I am Jayant Kohli, founder and CEO. I come with around 21 years of industry experience. I started my career, my journey in RegTech space in 2012, when Companies Act 2013 was getting introduced. That time I was, as I was more into IT products, CRMs, ERPs, and all. And while we realized, sitting with the CIO one day, that Companies Act 2013 is opening a big opportunity for lawyers who can marry technology with it and build a strong compliance management solutions. And that's when I got into this space. And obviously there were a lot of ups and downs initially. And we founded Lorbit in 2018. There were previous versions of technology in the company, which was launched earlier. And after all that experience, Lorbit was launched in 2018. Along with me, my co-founder, Dilpreet. He's he also founded another legal technology, alternate legal technology firm called Mind Merchants, and he built a very unique model of engagement for a global delivery for the reverse outsourcing, wherein he partnered with the Big Four to serve around 70 countries, with the global regulatory intelligence for clients like TCS, Wipro, Impact, Vedanta Group, and all. Along with me, my co-founder Lokendra, who's a lawyer, Shalini, and this is my team, which is helping me manage the various functions, be it technology or implementation. Mike is there, Pratima is there, two of my key people standing with you right now, Mike and Pratima, along with and Dipesh, and most of the people who are saying it, other than Kuldeep, they are all legal professionals who come with law background and running the Right now, as I mentioned, we have around 50 plus lawyers. These includes lawyers from the two colleges like ILS, Pune, Symbiosis, MIT Manipal, and NLUs. So from various Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan, Bharatiya Vidya Peeths, Pune, and so on and all. So we have lawyers working with us from across various institutes across India. Our back office is in Jaipur. We call it the Global Delivery Center, which Dipesh heads. What we deliver, our global network, as I mentioned, these are around 70 countries where we have already delivered data, and we have built a massive data from 33,500 plus laws. Our engagement models, on the one side, you see our reselling partners. So we work closely with consulting firms, very close engagement with Baker Tilly and Video in India, very strong engagement with both of them. Baker Tilly in Africa and Video in India. They are taking our products to their set of clients, and in the next slide we'll talk about it. Another engagement with the regional visa or India level or state level consulting firms like Productivity, ESA, and all. We have partnered with law firms across the globe. These include the names like DLA Piper, DDSA, DLA Piper, Evershed, CDH Global, Porter Rights, and all, which are leading law firms in their respective countries. Along with those partnerships, we have delivered our products and to our various clients, enterprise clients. Now, how we are delivering what we are talking about, because I don't know whether you could make sense of what I was saying, but I'll try and still simplify it. Now, as an enterprise, if I run my business, if I have the businessman or the CFO or a corporate risk officer, or compliance and risk officer for a large enterprise, if I have to ensure that my organization is compliant with all the laws and regulations applicable on us, we have to ensure that we know what are those laws and what are those compliance. And we also need to track.
Jayant, we have 5 more minutes to speak.
Sure. We also need to track changes on a daily basis. And that's where our twin software architecture really helps. So we have built this entire delivery model on a twin software architecture, where in one side we are creating all the legal know-how and getting it delivered through a software called GCMS. Both of these softwares are connected with each other through APIs. And on a real-time basis, the data is syncing from our backend applications to the client end of software, wherein as and when we are making any change in the laws and compliance in the line items, it is getting known to the user. And user is always taking to the single source of truth, which means we are keeping a single source of truth for our laws and compliances globally, which means any kind of feedback coming from one client or one user would impact everyone across. Just to throw some numbers, in India, we have a massive library from 60,000 plus compliances across 2,000 plus laws, 50,000 documents. Basically, in India, if it is a law, possibly we have it in our database. I'm talking about laws related to the corporates. Now, be it a companies like GST, income tax, or legal methodology to a consumer protection, to a shop and establishment, to noise pollution, anything and everything which is, as long as law, or RBA law, the guidelines, or CB guidelines, everything is available. Some of the marquee clients we're working with, so on the one side, I was saying some of the global clients, it looks the likes of Maersk, Interflow, Marriott, L&T, Infotech around multiple countries, Baker Tilly, Wipro, ITC is the group, CNH is the group, Mitra Jabong, Brighter Group, Radiance Renewable, India Mart, Haldia Petrochemical. I would say, just a glimpse of it, you name possibly an industry today we are serving them, likes of Ikra, Gosangi Industries, to NEC Technology, Bread Sison, Square Yards. So these are not international reports. These are some of the market clients we have. We're very strong on the user feedback. We believe in the SaaS business, it is never easy to, it's to retain a client. So you always need to have your feet on the ground, ears on the ground. So we continue doing end user surveys. We call it NPS surveys, and this is a result of some of the recent surveys. So which means end users are quite happy. Some of the accolades. Good thing is the legal tech or reg tech industry over the past couple of years have gained a lot of recognitions. and so as we are getting a lot of recognitions as well. Recently, in the TI Global Summit, we were awarded as emerging 100 startups globally, and some of the other ones which are there. What we have achieved so far, we are in the business in 2018. This is our growth chart. Today, we are EBITDA positive. We are bootstrapped. We have achieved 400k USD as a revenue, and this is how our revenue breakups looks like. We are comes from partners as well as direct source. 60% of business is through partners, and is direct, and 40% is partners. We want to continue as a 50-50. We want to continue growing our partner network beyond what the existing partners are. We clocked 111% growth in the last year. This is how our sales and marketing channels look like. I can go deeper, but I think we have paucity of time. What is our addressable market? I'm being very conservative. I'm a very conservative person.
Done in next 1 minute.
We have, if I look at only India market is addressing only India requirement is almost like a 500 crore market. Right
Then
now,
faster.
only 20%, less than 20% is addressed. What we are looking at, as I said, we are still bootstrapped. We are now wanting to go, expand our wings, expand ourselves in India and expand ourselves beyond India as well. We already have some partnership networks, but we want to start building more data. And that's the reason we are looking at $1.5–2 million investment in the first round, and maybe $5 to $20 million, because maybe in the next round we may want to do a summit of a market consolidation and go global. So this is what our investment plans look like. Market landscape. This is a competition landscape globally, and this is a competition landscape India. With this, I'm just taking a pause. Anybody has any questions? Happy to be there.
For questions, please.
Sorry, Mayank and Pratima, I kind of took over.
No, that's all right, Jayant. Actually, everybody is getting late, and Sir is getting late. He's been reminding again and again, so we had to actually disturb you in between many times.
So, any questions?
So my question first is, are you a startup or are you already funded? That is question number one. The other question I have is, it's a good presentation, but how do you place yourself among the competitors in this industry? Because what you are offering is not unique, right? It is something which is already there in the market.
Right.
So compared to your competitors, how are you placed?
So, Jayant, are you going to answer, or you want us to answer this?
Let me just take this quickly, because I understand there is very little time. So we still are startup. We still call us a startup. Just we just mind minuscule. If I talk about what can be achieved in terms of what we, we are still bootstrapped. We have not taken any funding. That's your second question. In terms of how we see ourselves as the competition, we have been not just winning against the competition, we have also been replacing the competition products in the market, and some of the market names here. And these are some of the data points. It's a regulatory technology solution. It's not IT. It is law married with technology. That is, and it's not a checklist-based solution. It's a regulatory intelligence-based solution. It's not a one-time implementation. It's a lifelong engagement. That is what we are differentiating ourselves with. Obviously, I can go deeper into it. It's a favorite subject. I can talk for next 2 hours on this slide itself.
I think you're good.
Thank you so
No
much,
further
Jayant, for your
questions. No
presentation.
further questions. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone,
Thank
for
you.
patience hearing. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. And those were some amazing startups that we saw today. May I request the volunteers to escort the judges to the global conference room for their discussions. We shall now move on to the panel discussions for the evening. This panel discussion is on innovating the legal profession. May I request the panelists and the moderator to come to the dais. पीछे रखें. Please welcome the moderator for this evening, Professor Dr. Indranath Gupta. The professor holds a PhD from Brunel University, London, and 2 LLM degrees from the University of Aberdeen, UK, and the University of East Anglia, UK. He specializes in technology law and aspects of international property law. Intellectual property law. Sorry, sir. He's also been invited as a Jean Monnet Visiting Research Fellow at the Center of Excellence, Jean Monnet Center for Intellectual Property and Management, Bournemouth University, UK. Sir was earlier appointed as the research collaborator by the University of Bocconi, Milan, Italy, for a project funded by the European Commission under the 7th Framework Programme. He is presently a professor at the Jindal Global Law School, Dean of Research and Controller of Examinations at JGU. He is the co-director of JIR ICO and a senior fellow at the Jindal Institute of Behavioral Sciences. Sir, it is an honor to have you here today. Please welcome the panelists for today evening. Professor Abhinav Mehrotra. Professor Abhinav holds an LLB degree from OP Jindal Global University and an LLM in International Human Rights Law from the University of Leeds. He's worked as a law clerk cum research assistant under Justice Rajiv Sai in the Delhi High Court. Sir also has experience working as a researcher with People's Union for Civil Liberties, Jaipur, where he was involved with issues related to the right to education, prison reforms, and homelessness. He regularly writes on contemporary significant issues and has been published on various reputed platforms and national and international platforms also. Welcome, sir. Please welcome Mrs. Komal Gupta. Ma'am is the Chief Innovation Officer at Amarchand Mangaldas. She is responsible for the firm's transformation using appropriate legal technologies, processes, and continual innovation. Focused around legal tech, legal service delivery, and innovation culture, Ma'am works at the intersection of people, process, and technology to find working solutions to pain points. She also manages a legal tech incubator overseeing a 6-month program for each coherent, from crowdsourcing ideas and screening pitches to the emergence of market-ready products for the legal industry. Ma'am is a member of the advisory board for the Asian Pacific Legal Innovation and Technology Association and is a guest speaker at NMIMS Kirti P. Mehta School of Law for the elective subject Law and Technology. Welcome, ma'am. Please welcome Mr. Vinayak Mishra. Sir is a corporate lawyer specializing in private equity and venture capital transactions. After having spent over a decade with various leading law firms in India, he joined Lightspeed Venture Partners to set up their legal team for India and SE Asia. At Lightspeed, in addition to overseeing deal execution for investments and exit deals, Sir is also responsible for advising the fund and companies and founders backed by it on various legal and risk matters. Welcome, sir. I now hand you over to Professor Indranath Gupta to commence with the panel discussions.
Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me, Gaurav, Rajat, Priyanka, the names that I could remember, and to the team, of course, of JGU and students. And I was fortunate enough to listen to many of very bright startups and their plans. Welcome panelists, Vinayak Mishra, Komal Gupta, and Abhinav. Great to have you here. I know, we are running a bit late, but, we'll have a discussion. I'm sure we're going to have a good discussion nonetheless. So I have a few pointers before I would sort of request panelists to share their opening thoughts. I was listening to these presentations. I was thinking, we're talking about different challenges out here. And with each challenge, I see an opportunity is there as well. People have been talking about challenges that are there in legal challenges, so to speak. I haven't quite understood myself what is a legal challenge. Can you sort of club it under a few things? How much does it extend to what extent, what can be done about it? So I think first we need to fathom what do you mean by a legal challenge that probably, a legal setup and legal startup would probably help us with. So, and if you'd asked me for the last 20 years or so, I've been, listening to the volumes of cases, unawareness, increasing awareness, and these are issues that are not new. So, what are the legal challenges that actually are forcing us to think about AIs, machine learning, neural networks, and so on and so forth? Being a law and technology enthusiast, I always think about these issues. I also while I was listening to the presentation, and maybe panelists would like to sort of comment on that, I was thinking of how do you breach the disciplinary boundaries? Because I guess lawyers should more often talk to tech experts. Tech experts should more about talk to lawyers. And some of our panelists, already asked questions about: do you have lawyers in your startup? What is the legal validity? Who would be held responsible, and so on and so forth? Those are pertinent questions, right? Which means that there are certain disciplinary boundaries that we have to cross. And how those disciplinary boundaries would be crossed, that's an important bit. So, so that's the third observation. Of course, we know about, AI and law. This is something that, has been talked about so many times. I'm not sure how would you go about in defining, if at all it is possible, technology, right? For me, the technology has different layers to it. And it actually permeates through different emotions, as you say. And I'm trying to think of thinking technology who would have all the societal values, ethics, and other associated issues connected to it as the time in functioning. So I was listening to some of the presenters saying that, I'm going to ask this app and they would respond. So is there a human mind behind that technology as well, who would actually be able to understand human values? That is something that probably we need to ask ourselves. And finally, we probably would need to look at the way forward as well, that how do we move ahead? I'm sure this is not the end to it, of course, and we're going to have a lot many discussions. On that note, I would rather stand because I feel quite comfortable standing. It feels like I'm sort of in a classroom. That's the thing for a professor, I guess. On that note, let me welcome all the panelists again, and maybe I start with Vinayak Mishra for your opening thoughts. Please. Thank you.
Yeah, hi everyone. I am a lawyer, first generation lawyer. Started my career with a firm called Desai & Diwanji. Moved from there to a firm called BMR and then to Shardul Amarchand, where my interest with venture capital started and where I started working with startups, and where for the first time I realized the power of technology that had in fact touched a lot of businesses before, but legal was one sector that was completely untouched by technology, or if maybe completely untouched, maybe incorrect, but maybe only 2% of what could unravel in legal tech was touched by then. We only had something called DeltaShare, DeltaView Workshare, which could compare two documents. We of course had Microsoft Word. We had legal search engines like Manupatra, Westlaw, and that's it. So yeah, I'm a legal tech enthusiast myself. Left Shardul Amarchand to set up my own practice to help companies and VC-funded startups grow their business, help them on the legal front, and also try my hand with legal tech. So we founded a firm called Algo Legal. I was one of the founding partners of that firm. Later moved to Lightspeed, where I take care of our legal tech investments as well as all the work that happens around this, apart from doing my day job, which is of helping our portfolio companies fundraise and help the fund itself fundraise from its investors. Thank you.
Komal Gupta, please.
Okay, so I think by now you would have understood that I work with legal technology all of the time, and for the last 20 years, I have been working with legal technology and delivering legal services through a combination of people, process, and technology. Given that I was in the legal outsourcing space for 13 years, and then the next 7 years in CAM, all of it, the one common thing is, delivering legal services through legal technology. Now, as I am, in various such pitches as happened today, I am one of the jury members mostly, or otherwise because I run Praramb, the legal tech incubator at CAM. I analyze legal technologies very carefully because I'm also a user of legal technology myself. So what I see is that, mostly the founders or the developers of legal tech in India are imagining a problem, and they're not really getting into grassroots level, to find out what really is the problem and what solution should they be developing. What they land up doing is that they imagine the problem, they think they've made some fantastic solution, and then they land up into trouble, or they land up disappointed because then they don't get business. It doesn't convert because the lawyers happily reject their product, and as lawyers we are not very forgiving, so we getting a second chance with us is very difficult. So I think this has been a very interesting session today per se, and obviously my 20 years of experience in delivering legal services through legal tech. I just hope that I'm able to share some experiences and some, maybe answer your queries and give you perspective, so that as I was talking in the afternoon with one of your professors, that you guys actually are the change makers. We are only facilitators. I think the youngest of you are the ones who are the change makers. So if you get it as to why legal tech, why innovation, why change is important in the practice of law, you will definitely bring about a big change in the country. So I think that the most powerful people who can impact transformation in law is the students. And my whole effort is to educate you guys, and so that you guys come with a positive mindset when you take up your jobs in law firms or wherever else.
Abhinav, thank you.
I'm Abhinav. I'm an assistant professor in the law school and assistant director for Center for UN Studies. So how my role comes into place here with all the experienced people on the board is that our center is looking into the UN functioning in terms of intra-governmental negotiations, how the UN functions as a whole. So when legal technology comes into place, the jurisdiction gets blurred. When jurisdiction gets blurred, there is intergovernmental negotiations. So these legal techs are basically doing work which will affect the functioning of various governments, various states. So how can an intergovernmental regulation be done from a UN perspective in this regard is something our center is looking into. Otherwise, listening to all the people, all the participants today, we all know what legal tech is basically doing, use of technology and software to provide legal services. But the larger question still remains, is it going to fulfill its larger purpose towards the community, towards the society, and towards the users, as ma'am said, towards the users in general? Because the recurring questions that were being asked was whether you have a lawyer, whether you have any legal expertise. So you need someone who has that information, who is neutral, who is unbiased, because as most of them said, they have to make money at the end of the day. But who will ensure the authenticity of this data? Who will ensure that various regulatory framework, if somebody is dealing with US, UK, how will they comply with those regulations, laws? So all these points refer to a particular point where to ensure the ethical part of these organizations at the same time. So the questions of ethical issues are not only the bias that machine bias will have, but also whether the legal personhood can be recognized of such entities. So what I could understand, what I could sense is there is also somewhat need for regulation, not a direct regulation, but an oversight from a larger international body or something which touches upon the lives of the people in terms of safeguarding their rights. So thank you.
Thank you so very much for the opening comments and opening thoughts. Maybe I'll start with the first question, and maybe if I may ask Vinayak, if I may. See, often we come across this, of course, we have come across this term of legal tech, right? And the question that I have in my mind is technology merely a tool, or is it functioning in a very different way? Meaning, so what is the difference between, say, a technology which is where you type and you get results, to a technology that you are conceiving as a part of legal tech? So what is technology for you, and is technology merely a tool? Thank you.
So for me, my interest, legal tech attracted my interest because I saw it as a tool for taking away the mundane tasks from lawyers, and B, making judgments and opinions more sharpened with maybe better substance, saving time to build that substance. Like when in my previous firm, and again being a VC M&A lawyer, I have done a lot of investments, and what is necessary for all of these investments is diligence. And then you also realize that the documents that you normally use are standard documents. Like US has standard investment documents called NVCA forms, which everyone uses for all their financing deals. So being at Lightspeed, I have the advantage of seeing how deals are done in India and how they are done in US. So like if those NVCA forms could be fed into legal tech software, which could generate those forms and agreement templates merely by inputting the name of the company and the investment amount, I think a lot of time would be solved, and then the lawyers then focus on things which are more important, things that do not suit their respective client for that deal. So I think I see legal tech as more of a enabler and as a tool to minimize the chances of error while making the system more efficient and reducing cost.
Thank you very much. Taking a cue from what Vinayak said, if I may pose a question to Komal now. Do you see legal tech as one word or legal and tech? And further on, you said about the disciplinary boundaries that, probably startups thinking about a problem, and that's the end to it, and then probably coming up with a solution, and it's not the perfect solution at the end of it, right? So my question is that whether legal tech is a single word, right, or it's two separate words, and therefore we need a bridge. And what could be the possible bridge between the two, in your opinion? Thank you.
So often we see it being mentioned as two separate words. Any write-up that I do, I always have it as one single word. And many of us do write it as a single word if we talk about theory. In my head, what is it, legal tech separate or together? I see it as one word because I see fintech also as one word. Why has it become important to say that this is fintech, this is legal tech? Because technology is technology, but to give it a category, it will help the development and growth of that technology in that area. And like you said, like I've said, it's important to have the right domain experts to create the products so that you are able to crack the market in the first go. Let's get it right the first time, no matter how long does it take to start with it. First, form your team. That is important. So legal tech to me is one word, and legal tech for me is an enabler, a necessary tool. Just as a paper and a pen is important for a lawyer, so is legal tech. While we talk about legal tech and make it sound so special and so great and all of that, as of today, because there's so much of unawareness, there's such lack of use of legal tech. But I can bet on this that 10 years later probably we'll be laughing and saying that what is it? I mean, it's normal, it's regular for us to use a research technology, it's regular for us to use a diligence technology. There's nothing so special about legal tech. That is, I mean, I wish I get to see that in my lifetime, because that's where we really want to get at.
Thank you so very much. Avinav, you said something interesting about regulating, ensuring that we have the trust bit a part of the legal tech and the functioning of the legal tech. What kind of regulatory mechanism are you proposing? But wouldn't that be too much of law, and therefore it can stop the innovation? In any soft regulation that you're talking about, or you're talking about private regulation, and so what is your idea? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So, because we are talking about legal texts, so whenever legal rights and obligations are talked about, even in our constitution, we talk about reasonable restrictions as a concept under Article 21 and other fundamental articles. Yes, it's about innovation, it's about creating something new, dynamic, change, bring a change. But when one's right is at stake, the legal tech also will have to be abiding by the law as to till what extent can it go in providing that service, whether that service is serving a legitimate purpose or not. So the oversight is more in the soft in nature, which is merely regulating as well as prescribing, but having some sort of a code of conduct which at least gives some sort of a guidance for these legal texts to function. Because if there's a free hand, then there's also high chances of abuse of the freedom that one gets. So freedom and responsibility come in hand.
Thank you so very much. Three different perspectives. Now let's, you talked about that how it's going to come. It's going to be very obvious, say in the future, Komal, and then of course Vinayak talked about how it's just a tool, right, which would make things efficient, right? So if efficient is a measurable quantity, efficiency is a measurable quantity, have you seen in your experience in terms of how efficient the system has become from how it was to how it is? Your thoughts?
Yeah, thanks, Dr. Gupta. I can tell you, I graduated in 2008, so from law school. So I had the benefit of doing purely physical and manual research, and also using Manupatra and Westlaw. So I think the efficiency the technology gets you, like I remember we were doing this Bar Council of India moot, which is considered to be the most challenging moot for a reason that it's very demanding. You have to make like 4 memorials in 15 days. The maximum time that you used to get at that point of time was 15 days to make those 4 memorials for both sides, because you had 4 moot propositions that you had to argue during the course of the competition. So that got enabled because we had access to the Manupatra, and because we could do, say, a toggle search on Manupatra, and we could generate those results. Similarly, now the way we use legal tech for our work, like we generate term sheets using that. So we have we use a platform called HiQ from Thomson Reuters, which we use to generate term sheets on. So every member in the team is trained. Like if people are not accessible, you could just go there, input the investment amount, input the number of founders, input the percentage of ESOP, and boom, you have a term sheet right there in 15 seconds, right? We have used that for following up on multiple things that we used to earlier track manually. We would create calendar entries on our calendars saying that on this date, after 3 months, you have to send a reminder to this person to get this document back. So efficiency, hands down, the way system helps you to achieve efficiency is like we are still exploring how much we can do with that. And this is just one tool that we are using. Going forward, we plan to engage with multiple things. And I think that's a non-debatable as to how it could improve efficiency of organizations. Like we handle over 120 companies in our portfolio, and the legal team is only 2 members and one company secretary. And we handle at least 40 requests on a daily basis, which need review, which need summarization, which need judgment. All of that is possible because we have been able to adopt to some legal tech tools.
Thank you, Vinayak. I mean, that gives me cue for a second question, and if I may ask Komal for that. Given the efficiency and the nature of efficiency that Vinayak talked about, that less number of human resources will be required, does it mean that machines are going to replace human beings?
Absolutely not, never. I don't think it'll ever happen. Unless I don't know, 200 years later what will happen, but I don't think in my lifetime that's happening. Because see, look, machines are they are there for a specific purpose. They are not going to be able to replace my brain. I need to sit with my client. I need to understand the client. I need to understand the judge. When I'm presenting in the court, that knowledge, that brain of mine, the machine cannot replace. Today, in fact, I was giving again an example. When a client comes to meet the lawyer, the clients only want to meet the senior advocate for whom they are paying the fees. They don't want to meet the junior advocates because they are in trouble, right? So who can calm them down and who can give them assurance that you're in safe hands and don't worry, I'll save you. It is the senior advocate who's sitting in his office. I want to meet the senior advocate. So, and for what? As a client, am I going to ask the senior advocate, what did you do in the research? How many hours did you sit for researching of precedents? No. I don't care. I'll be rather more than happy that, oh wow, they use AI-enabled technologies to find good precedents or to save them from using such precedents which the judge has overruled. So I think we have to understand this, and we need to take this off our mind that ever will be replaced. Have the doctors been replaced by robots? No. And in fact, I was giving this example, I think the closest that I can think of another profession to ours is medicine. And look how beautifully the doctors have embraced technology and yet not lost their relevance. Right? And they are in fact encouraging that, okay, knee replacement, we suggest a robotic surgery. They're not saying that, the head of the department is saying, go for a robotic surgery instead of, a manual surgery, the results are better. Why can't we do the same thing? Why can't we understand and say that, look, for research, I need AI-enabled technology. And believe me, I've seen it myself, so I'm not just saying it. I've seen the technology giving out results where there is a case which has been cited 25,000 times. So you would get, misled and you would think that this is a very popular case, but then it shows red, red, red. Do not cite this case because this is the one that is overruled. That is what helps you. Contract abstraction. Now, it might sound very simple and easy, but can you imagine going through 10,000 contracts looking for 80 fields in those 10,000 contracts? Can you imagine manually how many people would you have to put together to deliver that kind of a abstraction exercise in, say, 1 month? At least a team of 100 lawyers. And the technology, if trained properly, can do it like within minutes, can give you the whole result, and then you just spend time double checking. So when you asked about the number, that efficiency, while we are continuously saying there is efficiency, I've actually had the opportunity to measure efficiency in a due diligence exercise. So very frequently we work with the capital markets team in CAM for their diligences. And we ask them, we threw it at them that, this is the work the innovation team does through technology and gives you back your diligence documents in these many hours or these many days. And tell me how much, because it's very easy for people to say, हाँ ठीक है, कुछ नहीं खास तो नहीं कुछ हमें लगता है. So then we said, okay, let's do a measurement. And we asked the practitioners, the capital markets team, that you tell us if the same thing you had to do, your juniors had to do, how long would it take? And they themselves, so this is not a number that I am saying, this is a number that the practitioners who would be doing the work themselves have committed to, that we think it's about a 30%. Now, 30% versus 0%, what is better? 30% is better, you know. And while there's another second thought that if I'm going to be more efficient, how am I going to meet my targets? You know, that means that I will have lesser billable hours. No, there are clients who most of the time come to us with, please do this work as of yesterday. Charge a premium. Why do you think that you will lose money? Why don't you think that you will gain money? Because you have that tool in your hand, because you use technology as an enabler for yourself.
Thank you. So, really we do not have anything to worry about. So we'll park that thought, surely. So, Abhinav, so since there is nothing to worry about, right? Can you talk a little bit about if there is a need for us to at all regulate technology, because it seems that it has got a direct connection with our efficiency, right? So should we regulate technology or give it a free hand altogether? Because there are arguments for that as well. Please.
I think I'll just refer to the common day examples. One very pertinent example that comes to my mind is data protection. In our country, we've been trying to regulate data protection for last 3-4 years. The bill has been has changed from Sri Krishna Committee to various other committees. It's in different forms. Regulatory commissions are being formed. If intermediaries like Twitter, Facebook can be trusted with everything, then why do we have these protection authorities? Why even in ours is a novel system. When we talk about Europe, when there is GDPR, they give the responsibility upon the service provider to correct what has happened. But they still have GDPR in place. So any society, what's the function of law? Law's function is to regulate the affairs of a society, whether through maximum intervention or through the fear of sanctions or through minimum intervention. But there has to be some or the other system to regulate the affairs in whatever form, depending on the circumstances and the society in which it is being governed. So I don't think any society or any element of any society, startups are also part of the larger society, what they are trying to provide services, it needs some regulation. The form may be different, but having no regulation cannot be the answer.
So since we're talking about regulation and data protection and GDPR and what's happening in India, how much, this is a question which is open to all. How much intervention do you see that has come in the last 4-5 years, be it European Union, be it India, the discussions that are happening in India, legal intervention, which it's kind of scaring those who are trying to innovate?
Sorry, could you just repeat the question?
Yeah, so since we're talking about a regulatory mechanism, taking a cue from what Abhinav just said, given the context of data protection, privacy, and so on and so forth, and the developments that are happening in European Union, right? Because everyone is going global, right? So you probably would have certain liabilities in the European Union as well. People are coming to India, so there could be a possible liability regime, a framework that we might have in 2023. So given these changes that have already happened in different parts of the world, plus what are the changes that are happening in India, given this ecosystem, do you think that as an innovator, right, there is anything to worry about? Or do you see these interventions as something impeding tech growth? Please. It's a question common to.
Sure. So I'll take the first crack and I'll tell you how industry if I may say so, is looking at it. So I work with a venture fund. Taking risk is in my DNA. I mostly operate in the gray zone, like innovation. Multiple times, more often than not, you would have innovation coming in an area that is not regulated or where regulations are not clear. At least what I can tell you about innovation is innovators are not afraid of law. And so long as intent is clear and so long as you are making the minimum effort to do diligence and be diligent on your part, I have not seen people falling foul of the legal restriction. Having said that, in my career as a corporate lawyer, I have seen situations wherein people have been caught on the wrong side of law. I interestingly happened to be the lawyer acting for an investor who was investing into a company called Shuttle. Shuttle was a bus hailing app, and we signed the agreement just about before closing. One day before closing, Karnataka RTO started seizing the buses because they were violative of the then prevailing Motor Vehicles Act. Gurgaon RTO followed. But the investment went ahead. We did invest and the company did really well. Why I'm giving you this example is so long as your bases are covered and you know that you have done your diligence and at least you are ensuring that you are complying with law, there would not be much hassle to navigate through the business.
Thank you, Vinayak. Komal.
Long as you are within the legal framework, so it's important that before you start any business you know what the rules and regulations and compliances are. Once you know that, then there is no fear, so abide by all regulatory and legal compliances. I think a bigger challenge is for our domestic talent to develop legal technology, that they do not get the base. They do not get that, when you're trying to build an AI and ML enabled technology, the ML, where is it going to happen from? Where is that data source? Our people struggle with that more. And I think something needs to be done with the help of all the stakeholders, together to provide that data set, which the US, the, Canadian, UK, all jurisdictions are providing their people and helping them with. We are just sitting with mine. I think that is what we need to break, to help our domestic talent develop good products.
Thank you, Komal.
I think the only the point, as sir and ma'am said, there's a need for, if I can term it as legal sensitization for these firms, these techs, to be aware of what the law is, and because at the end of the day they are facilitating the legal process. So if they themselves are law abiding, the ones who they claim to help or the stakeholders involved will be able to help them with more efficiency. So either a regulatory body or say a non-state actor, whoever comes and tries to sensitize these entities with the laws in hand and tries to make them aware of the same. I think that can be a long way forward with compliance and the ultimate aim of these startups.
Thank you very much. Maybe it's time to have a few questions from the audience, if you have one. Please go ahead.
How do we catch up with it while we are in law school?
So I don't think one is that legal tech is not moving at that faster pace. So let's first clear that. Other technologies might be, Apple might be releasing a phone every 6 months and Samsung might be doing that. But legal tech is not running at that faster pace. Domestic, very, very slow. Internationally also, it is not that, you get 10 new technologies every year. In fact, one of the reasons why CAM did not do a third cohort last year, which we should have done, is because we wanted to give the time for people to think of newer areas and beyond contract and compliance, which is the most common area that everyone wants to develop technology for. And now after listening to today's session, I think now we're ready for a cohort 3, because now we've moved from that contract compliance research to GPT. So probably now it will be interesting to launch third cohort. But to answer your question, I think there are 2 things that you need to do. One, study on your own. And keep track of what's happening. You should be knowing what is happening across the globe and not just in India, because India is the last one in this space. So you cannot be following just India. You need to actually follow what's happening in the US, in the UK, and in Australia, and then what is happening in India. The second thing is that, apply for CLIck. I don't know if there is any student sitting here who has attended the CLIck course. So CAM conducts a CLIck, which we just did, the first batch we did with 8 law colleges last year. This year it's going to be a little different. Perhaps not 8 law colleges together. It was just getting difficult for us to, get everyone on time, etc. But you should be taking advantage of such courses where, the first one that we did was at no fees, and we were teaching students the most popular legal technologies and also giving them access to those technologies for a month. So you should keep an eye for such courses being conducted by whoever, and attend those courses. And the third thing, which is I think the most important, is that we need to get a course, a subject on law and technology in a formal way, and till when that is not happening as an elective subject, but that is very important. As a law school and as the BCI, everyone needs to understand that it is a part of the legal studies and we cannot ignore it.
Anybody wants to respond? Or maybe we can have another question if there is one.
Yeah, he has a question.
Yeah, please go ahead.
I think there's a Bar Council clause which says that lawyers can't have profits in an organization. How does that clause go by lawyers and as innovators of legal tech? Like that.
I am not sure, because that is not my area of expertise. But if that was the case, then so many lawyers who are trying to build legal tech would not be happening.
That's basically flowing from Advocates Act, which applies to advocates, people who are actually practicing in courts. Like, you cannot be doing that. Apart from that, I don't think there's any challenge. If you're doing a legal tech startup, you're not practicing law.
Is there a question there? You want to ask a question? Yeah.
I was actually
okay, I see.
What he meant Advocates Act, because I am running a legal tech startup, so I was not able to register as an advocate.
Right. Any? Yes, please.
One set of parties who want to impose regulations, and there's the other set, like the businesses. And if the businesses say there should not be regulation, the people का response है यार ये चोरी करना चाह रहा है इसलिए regulation नहीं मांग रहा है. As somebody who has worked as a litigator and somebody who has worked as an entrepreneur, I have a kind of a unique perspective. What I would say, my term is, we are talking about the regulation. Why don't we talk about regulating the regulators? Yeah, so let me explain that. The idea is that, whenever you are talking about any regulation, it's always one and done. So, like, GDPR comes in, they look at it, done. Nobody does a system. Whenever any regulation is coming in, why is not there a systematic analysis that this is the objective that we are trying to do? Okay, so we are putting in this compliance on a business, and our idea is that if this compliance comes into the picture, this kind of fraud would be reduced by 20%, right? That never happens, right? It's always one and done thing, and that's why we have so many archaic laws. Like, you look at laws, I can list a number of them, like, so many archaic laws, because that they made sense at that point of time, but now with the change in society, those don't make sense. So I am all in for regulating the businesses, but it has to make sense that as an entrepreneur, my majority of the time should be spending on building the product rather than compliance, right? That's the biggest issue, and that I think can only be solved when regulators are regulating themselves as well and seeing whether they are exercising their power in the proper way or not. Where is their accountability? And I would like to have like your thoughts on that. And how can we make this idea mainstream?
So, if I may quickly intervene, it's more of a question like evidence-driven policy making. You're talking about evidence-driven policy making, what is the requirement of law, where is the requirement, and so on and so forth. In fact, since you have referred to GDPR, they have a assessment of GDPR that happens and shows how effective it was, right? And so on and so forth. Of course, there will be questions.
Taking cookie consent was a failure. It is still there. But I get it. See, GDPR may be an outlier. We are talking about Indian laws. You think about, like, when you talk about, like, this is I have to file a annual report, this many times. It's taking 2 days of my time. How are we evaluating that it's worth it? My question is that, how are regulators evaluating whether making all these business owners spend 2 days of their time, which they would have spent making money, creating jobs, right?
So the question is that how can be pro-innovative, regulation, so to speak. So if you want to take.
And maybe the Startup India program has some benefits to those who are qualifying as startups. If you are qualifying as a startup under the definition, of the Startup India program, I'm pretty sure they have lots of benefits for the startups. And in that, maybe I am not a master in that, but I'm pretty sure there are benefits that will, that will give you time to find clients and build your product.
Getting benefits.
Huh.
My point is, like, whatever benefits they are giving, right? Where is that evaluation where they are seeing that, we gave this many benefits and our objective was to gain this particular objective, right? We gave this many benefits to startup. What was the objective? And whether we achieved it or not, whether it was if it didn't achieve, then we can change something in law. And if it achieved, then we should double down on that, right? That's never happening when it comes to regulation. And that's why I'm saying that's why as a startup owner, we are scared of regulation. Because we say कि एक बार आ गया तो गर्दन कट गई, right? उसके बाद nobody is looking at it कि whether वो गर्दन काटना सही था, उसका क्या फायदा हुआ. Nobody is going back to look at it. And that's why they are scared of it. And unless we keep having this atmosphere where the lawmakers are not checking their own power, right?
But we are moving away from that slowly and gradually. You cited the example of Startup India. Now real data is coming up there. The other day I was hearing Mr. Amitabh Kant. So the real data is coming up from there. Policies are being framed to basically help those people. India would not have seen such influx of capital in past 2 years had Indian policies not been seen more favorably by foreign investors, right? Just the number of people in India is not the sole deciding factor when people invest money into India. I know because I have been part of those discussions that government is looking at these evaluation criteria for all policies, at least things that they could do. Maybe it would not be immediate, it would be gradual, but maybe 5 to 10 years down the line, we would start seeing changes on that.
Avinav, please go ahead. Last comment, please. We have sort of.
I just had a thought when you asked this. Who will regulate the regulators of regulators? Because in a system in law, when the law is passed by Parliament, it goes to the signature of President. President has the power to pardon also. Then who will regulate the President's power of regulating passing the bill? Can we have someone above the President also? So judiciary is there. Judiciary is checking the balancing act of President. President is doing for judiciary, but we don't have a third actor in that. So there is always a limit to regulating the regulators also. So after Supreme Court, we don't have any other jurisdiction to appeal to. So I think you have to have that fine balance of where to end it.
I think thank you very much to all the panelists. I mean, this discussion can go on, right? It's just tip of the iceberg, but we have to stop somewhere, right? Thank you to Vinayak, Komal, and Abhinav, and thank you to the organizers. Thank you to the audience for their wonderful questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Indranath, and thank you to the panel members. I think with this, we move to the most exciting part of the day. And thank you for all the audience who are still with us. We understand we are quite late. So we are coming up with the results now. I would request all the jury members to come on the stage and announce the results. Mike, please. On the center, Gaurav. Take a center stage, sir. Remove the name. Only one. Only she. Sure. Or
What did we decide towards the end as well?
you can sit and speak also if you want.
Okay, it was quite a difficult thing, and everyone did a brilliant job. Okay, the presentations were exceedingly good. There were demonstrations, etc., etc. So everyone did well. However, there was a consensus, and there were two stages to this. One was the individual scores, and then we had an ordinal ranking score. So there was deep methodology being applied, and the winner is, as a result of a consensus, is Amto AI.
Congratulations. This way. This way. This way. Sorry. To Nana. Thank you everyone. I think thank you so much. Then it comes to the thank you note. Thank you so much for everyone. Thank you, Professor Manika, to begin with, to filling in for Professor Srijit and also helping us with the opening speech today. Thank you, Mr. Pawan Duggal. He has to leave because he was getting late. Thank you all the jury member, which consists of Mr. Krishna Srivastav from SARO, Dr. Akhil Prasad, the board member of Boeing India, Professor Arnab Bose, assistant professor and fellow of Jindal Global Law School, Professor Krishnadev Singh Chauhan, associate professor, Jindal Global Law School, again Dr. Pawan Duggal, who is the advocate Supreme Court. Also, thank you to the panel members, led by Dr. Indranath Gupta, who is a professor at Jindal Global Law School, Professor Abhinav Malhotra, Jindal Global Law School, Ms. Komal Gupta, Chief Innovative Officer, Sri Ramachandra Mangaldas, Mr. Vinayak Mishra, and K.D. Chauhan. Then thank you everyone for joining us today. And if we can have a group photo together, that would be really great. Thank you so much.
Where does he want us to stand? Upar.